Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call to order the Town of Lake Clark Shores Town Council meeting for May 14th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Vice Mayor John Maples,
Here.
President Pro Tem Bridget Keating,
Present.
Councilmember Taylor Materio,
Here.
Councilmember Christy Mosbach.
Here.
Okay. If we can, I will stand. We're going to have a moment of silence, and Pastor will lead us in a prayer and the pledges of allegiance. We want to remember this evening Lucille Harris, who was 92 years old. She passed on 4/17/2024. She was Vice Mayor Maples' grandmother. We also have Carrie Hobbs, who passed on 5/11/2024 and was only 57 years young. And Dick Snade, who was Councilwoman Mosbach's neighbor, passed at 86, and he was living off a pine tree.
Our Father in heaven, I come to you tonight and thank you for this privilege to pray. Thank you, God, for all your blessings. Thank you for allowing us to live in America, greatest place in the world. Thank you, Lord, for your grace to allow us to live here in this community and Lake Clark Shores. I thank you for these dear people on the board tonight. Lord, their desire was to be on the board so they could just make Lake Clark Shores just continually a better place to live. I pray for them tonight. Thank you, Lord, that we have a new board. I pray they work together well. I pray, Lord, that when they do disagree, they disagree with a sweet spirit. Lord, I pray that they'll be able tonight, you'll give them wisdom from on high, to be able to deal with all the problems and needs of people. Lots of times it's complicated. Give them wisdom tonight. Again, thank you for the privilege to live here. And I pray your blessing on these dear people that have passed away. Lord, I ask that you would just be with their families. I pray that you give them comfort. I pray, Lord, that you'd meet their every need. And Lord, I want to pray a little special prayer tonight for it's National Police Week. Lord, I was thinking about that today. And I thought about military. I was in the military. And all gave some gave all. Lord, that's true of police officers. Lord, our police officers, as we watch our news, we know that's such a dangerous job. They could just give a little routine traffic ticket and be deadly. They could go to a home and try to help a family and it become deadly. And Lord, we thank you for these men who lay their life down on the line. And Lord, you called them ministers of God in the Bible. And we pray, Lord, that you would just protect our officers. Thank you for Chief Smith. Thank you for all of the officers here in Lake Clark Shores. I pray your ever-loving arms be wrapped around them and protect them. Thank you for those families, Lord, tonight that have lost their loved ones. I pray that you'd be with them, comfort them as God knows how, because one day God gave us son, but he got his son back. And I thank you for that. Thank you for Jesus, who died to keep us saved and save us from our sins. I thank you for that. God bless the meeting tonight. May you get honor and glory. I pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, we'll move on to audience comments. Suzanne Rennick.
Good evening. My name is Susan Rennick, and I live at 1402 Heller Road. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the gate, the non-gate. Now, I live 2 houses away from that area, and since the gate has been down, the traffic is different now in that speeders, both coming and going, both directions. I can't say how many, that's, I guess, our lovely police force would know because they've been around to check on that. But for a resident, it is very, very annoying now. So I would like to know at this point what your decision is. What is going to happen to that area since there's no gate? I was thinking even a stop sign, both directions, would help, would deter them from just zipping through that area. And that hasn't even happened yet. So what is the decision? Are you going to discuss that this evening?
Are we going to what, excuse me?
discuss the bridge, the non-gate area. What are you going to do about no gates now? What is the decision?
Well, right now, we're currently going 6 months.
6 months.
With the study that was suggested by the engineering, and we'll go from there.
And how long has it been going on? Recent?
About a month, possibly.
Okay, so we should be hearing about half a year or so, 5
Yeah,
months,
probably towards the fall.
something, because it really.
It's taken, there's information being taken and numbers being taken and things of that nature.
It's an issue for the residents on that street.
Well, I live over by there, so yeah,
On
I know.
Keller?
I know it was suggested that by the engineer, this is what we do. So this is what we're doing just to see for the 6-month period, see where things land.
Okay, I hope you make a wise decision and do something about that area, because it's difficult as a resident to live right there and have that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Terry Gibson.
Good evening, y'all. I live in Jensen Beach, but I grew up in Forest Hill and in Washington Road. Some of you may know my mother, Sally Gibson, who's taught at Cardinal Newman High School since 1971. Anyway, I grew up fishing and water skiing in these lakes, and I'm fishing at the spillway and fishing in the Lake Worth Lagoon. I'm really sorry about what happened with that contractor and your water line or your sewer line. It's really, it's unusual. It's super rare, and I'm just so sorry for the town that you have to go through that. It's devastating. But you know, the water quality in Lake Clark and really throughout the C51 drainage and Lake Worth Lagoon has been going on the wrong direction for a long time. And I've spoken to Mr. Maples here and Mr. Lobello, and I'm sure I work on water policy. It's almost exclusively what I do for an organization called Deploy US. We're a national organization, and I see these conversations about septic sewer conversions. Is it ag? Is it this or is it that? This is not a unique situation. It's an everywhere situation throughout the planet, throughout the United States. And so I just wanted to hopefully provide some encouragement in that, you know, with the way that the laws are written now and the grant programs are set up with the state and the federal government, there's a lot of creative ways to fund this to make it affordable. And really, I hope you look at it as an investment. So you know what fishing is to the state. We're the fishing capital of the world. It's a $12-13 billion industry. And what happens, you know, around the shores of Lake Clark affects the Lake Worth Lagoon. Those are critical nursery areas where we spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars restoring on the restoration projects, Snook Islands and Tarpon Cove and all that. They're critical nursery areas that affect fisheries up and down the East Coast. So again, you know, I've offered my help. This is and my organization's help. We're chock full of experts, both budget experts, scientists, biogeochemists, fisheries people, anything you guys need to figure out a way forward to clean up that waterway. You guys know how to find me. So good luck.
Have you given your information to Joe?
Yeah.
To John, I haven't, to Joe, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
fantastic.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Brett Fitzgerald. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Good.
I have a little one pager that I can drop it off, if that helps you.
Okay, yep.
My name is Brett Fitzgerald. I live in Lake Worth Beach on the other side of the non-gate there on the E4 canal. Been in the house there since '97. So I'm very familiar with these waters and spend a lot of time in your town. Anyhow, the reason I'm here is I also talked to John and Mr. Lobello about the water quality issues here. And in that conversation, it came up about the possibility of cleaning up the lake in a different way. The waters here are impaired. It's changed since I've been here. I think that's nothing new to anyone here. And the septic leaching into the water is one of the things that causes that problem, but it's not the only one. The other thing that we have here is the muck that's in the bottom of the lake that's been there for decades. That contributes to chemical issues and things. That also creates an anoxic situation that bacteria and things thrive in there. It makes it worse, kind of makes it kind of a self-inflicting thing. What that has done is changed the quality of the water here, makes it unsafe, if not at least unpleasant for people to get in the water to recreate. You know, when I first moved here, it seemed like every house in your town had a ski boat behind it. And that seems less and less, now the lake is more, it seems like people coming in with their jet skis, people don't have to get in the water. The fishing quality here has changed a lot as well. It's declined. And to be full disclosure, that's really why. That's my interest. I'm a fisherman. One of the things I do is run a nonprofit, and some of the projects that we've done are similar to this, where we've done restoration projects around the state, one in the Caloosahatchee River, an impaired body of water, one in the Indian River Lagoon. And the company that we've worked with is based out of Crystal River in that area, Sea and Shoreline. We hired them because they did a project there similar to what could be done here. Went up and toured the place where they vacuum all that stuff out, replant native plants, take care of it for a couple of years, and basically see that part of the restoration through. So what I'm hoping to get through to you today is to open the idea of that possibility. And one of the things that they've become very good at is constructing a model where they can figure out how to access funding to help, be it from state, federal, sometimes county, sometimes other sources. The projects that my foundation does with them, it's running into the tens of millions of dollars. None of that is coming out of the local community taxpayers. And I think that what Mr. Gibson mentioned, how this body of water is upstream to a body of water that has a large economic value. And the fact that your lake, the impaired lake, has become part of the problems downstream, I think there's a case to be made that repairing this lake is in the best interest of everyone around. Removing that muck is not the only answer. It is something that can really get things kick-started and improve the quality of life for your residents here. I guess what I'm hoping for here is that it's something that if I could bring that company down to give a presentation to you to show in more detail how those processes work, how they go about raising their funds, I think that would be something that would be beneficial to all of us. And if I can answer any questions now, I'd be happy.
Well, I think what we would want to do is definitely get you with Joe, get you on the agenda, and if they're willing to do that in a public meeting, that would be the best way,
Okay.
in my opinion, because there's a lot of concern throughout the community about not just Lake Clark Shores, but the entire chain of lakes. So I think it's a fantastic idea. I've been talking about septic to sewer is not the only answer to our problem. We have other things we need to address. So let's make that happen. We've got your information and we'll be in touch with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Brett.
much.
Appreciate your time.
Take care, Brett.
Okay. Candace Roos. You're Mickey? Yeah, come on up, Mickey. You can go first.
Thank you. Good evening, Town of Lake Clark Shores Public Servants. My name's Mickey Isaacson. I'm a Palm Beach County resident and live in Boynton. Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. In the past, some of our counties, towns like yours, had a clear path to fair and honest elections at one time. In the past, the people elected officials instead of the council tapping them into place. Their term of service, qualifications to hold positions, certifying their own voter rolls, and certifications of an election result were a very different process than municipalities have today. Today we have fake public servants in place longer than the original ordinances. Now our city election certifications are done through the supervisor of election, who has a $22 million budget and is asking for another $14 million for another tabulation new center to house uncertified machines, and she uses temporary outsourced staff to count our votes. So she doesn't even have her own employees, they're outsourced. She's certifying our elections with dirty voter rolls, no chain of custody for ballots, and allows the U.S. Postal Service to tamper with the U.S. mail, which is a federal offense. Wendy Link violates the statutes every time she uses the postal bins to transport mail-in ballots. We the people are awake and we're watching. We're watching all the 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County, and we're hoping that you will take back your elections. We're looking at budgets, how you tap in your public officials, how you belong to illegal organizations such as the City League of Florida League of Cities, and that we're allowing our legislators to change our organic Florida state constitution and enforce maritime laws on the people. It's time to remove the Palm Beach County charters, which are illegal, and take back our county. You guys belong to the League of Nations, and I learned today earlier that they're missing 33 people who were once members. I wonder why. Could they be stepping down? Could it be those officials that realize that the people are awake to these corrupt organizations? The Florida League of Cities belongs to an even bigger agency called the League of Nations Cities. So bigger government to govern small communities like this. They are tied to the crown. That is a one-party rule from the top level down to the states, down to the municipalities. This year, we're choosing to elect a U.S. president who resides in Palm Beach. This council should do the right thing and hold fair elections in your town and count votes in your precincts. There's no reason to outsource the elections. We're going back to common law, the law of the land, and restoring our republic. By the way this looks, the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights are all the rules that we, the people, need for our government. Our current government is 90% too large. And thank you for listening. And if you want to learn anything about this elections, you can reach out. I think I left my information. And if you need it, I'm happy to step aside and give it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're up, Candace.
Thank you. Good evening. Greetings, public servants. My name is Candace Roos, and this is difficult for me to say because I know that there are good leaders here. I'm looking at John. I know him personally. But I'm here today just as Jesus came into the temple to overturn the money changers. I'm here to put you all on notice as a sovereign American. Request your oath and bond, which is a pre-step to activate our military. I am here to boldly intercede for those without a voice. I am here to defend the Constitution and restore the Republic. The Constitution states that all of the power, not some of the power, belongs to we the people, not the employees, which are you guys. It also states that fraud vitiates everything ab initio. So I want you to be prepared for 1776 global peace and prosperity that's happening soon. And if you've not heard, there is a changing of the old guard, which I believe is all of the old people that have been around for 1,000,000 years running our governments. And there is a paradigm shift that is taking place all across the nation. No more generational political nepotism, no more secret societies controlling the masses, no more appointed board members via the tap from the secret society handshake that elects people. The fake facade of power and control of fake leaders is over. Did you know that Palm Beach County is an illegal foreign corporation called the Palm Beach County Charter? And town of Lake Clark Shores is part of that charter. So basically, you create your own rules without any oversight. What is the need for so many sheriffs? Are there hidden and unreported crimes that take place here in this town? Also, the town of Lake Park Shores is a member of the League of Cities, which is a conflict of interest with your role as an employee of We the People. Do you use your taxpayer dollars to pay for globalist organizations such as the League of Cities with connections to the United Nations or World Economic Forum? Foxes are guarding the hen house. Your town leaders are not transparent. You have no accountability. You do not follow the Constitution or common law. Instead, you're operating under maritime law and you follow fake statutes. You charge illegal taxes, fines, citations, traffic tickets, and fees, and use restrictive boards and code enforcement to keep constituents in compliance. You use preferred vendors, appraisers, contractors, and developers, and ensure your own property taxes are well below the actual value. There's deceiving going on across the municipalities. During the March 2020 COVID pandemic, scandemic, some of you may have even committed crimes against humanity if you were there. If you closed down the public spaces and you promoted death vaccines, that is considered a crime against humanity. We the people have not forgotten about the tyranny and treason that was committed in 2020. We American sovereign do not trust the current election process, and we believe the 2020 election was stolen. We demand fair and secure elections which has fallen upon deaf ears. We need you to take back your power by holding your own elections here at the local precinct and count your ballots at the precinct. We are demanding paper ballots, valid ID, one-day voting, hand counting ballots at the precinct level, removing the digital voting machines, reporting results at the precincts, providing overseas military, handicapped, and elderly a way that is secure to vote. So I pray right now that you all pray to God and expect a call to be duly, peacefully, and rightfully removed by our military. Be on the right side of history and do the right thing. Thank you. These are your letters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Tim.
Tim Daughtry, 1410 Keller Road. We've been talking about the lake, a couple people here tonight. We're a lead nation in lakes that are too polluted for people to swim in or recreate in, okay? Our major estuaries are 99% of them are impaired, okay? And we keep talking about taking care of a lake, taking care of our lake, taking care of a lake, and septic to sewer keeps coming up. Septic to sewer is not going to cure the problem we have with the lake, okay? We need to dredge the lake and get the muck out the bottom that has all of these pollutants in it and provide vegetation in the lake that will help clean and keep the lake clean. Spending the money for a septic to sewer conversion, we can't afford. There's no way we're going to be able to afford it right now. Okay, there's just no way. We're not getting enough money from the outside to be able to do the septic to sewer conversion. And we need to look at other options. And we need to be looking at other funding sources, federal, state, local. Of course, some of it has to be ours, okay? But we need to be looking outside for the major source of our funding for any of these projects. Second issue I want to address is the Pine Tree Bridge. So we've let the contract for it, I'm assuming, right? We have let the contract for it or not?
We didn't sign the contract yet.
You didn't sign it. Okay, well, it was reported that you awarded the contract.
No, it's contingent on two things.
Okay.
One, the governor has to sign the budget.
Okay. So anyway, we had only one viable bidder for this project that is over close to $2.5 million. Okay. That's a problem for me on this project of this side that we only had one viable bidder. I know we had another bid, but it was significantly larger than that bid. And that's a concern to me. It's also a concern to me plans. Okay. We were never provided with elevation drawings of the bridge and what it's going to look like and everything else. That is a basic part of a plan for any type of project of that sort. Okay. And it's a concern to me. It's even more of a concern if the engineer for that project stood up here and couldn't even express to people on the town council the difference between a handrail and a guardrail. That's a very defined term. Okay. That's a void. That's a void. It tells me that we got a problem with the plans. Okay. And this is going to cause problems with us down the road. And it's something we need to address before we get to the point of awarding a contract. Okay. I'm very, very concerned about the size of this contract, and there was only one viable bidder. Okay. The Keller Road Bridge, gate, stop signs, it's a problem. Okay. And I was asked questions previously about it, and I was in support of removing the gates. Okay. I was not in support of us removing the stop signs. Okay. That's a huge issue. That's a huge issue. It's a huge issue for Susan. It's a huge issue for me. She's two houses from the gate. I'm 3 houses from the gate. Okay. I can't get in and out of my driveway. I got people jumping me all the time, okay? I will deal with that. I will deal with that, okay? Okay, but coming in at the evening to even park in my driveway, I have to go across 2 lanes of traffic to turn in my driveway because I got a full-size cargo van. And it's dangerous. And I think you all need to realize you caused a dangerous situation, okay? Okay, I said when you remove the gates, you needed to put traffic calming measures in place, and you haven't. You have not done that. You removed traffic calming measures by removing the gate, and now you've removed the stop signs, okay? We're not going forward with this, okay? We're going backwards, and it's unsafe. I will deal with it. Susan will deal with it. We're old enough we can manage it and everything else. But we have 2 very young children right across the street, okay? And that's a problem. And somebody is going to get hurt. And you all should be on notice that you got a problem there and you need to address it, and you need to address it sooner rather than later.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
And I would like to speak to one item. I am not in support of special magistrate for the code enforcement.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
okay.
There's others.
For me, yeah, I'm not finished yet. Just getting my thoughts together. A lot of stuff to take in tonight. We don't normally have this amount of comments. Bill, come right up. Good evening.
Murphy, 1841 Evergreen Drive. We were planning to have a lake cleanup and we missed it for the sewer. I'm volunteering to pick up anything that's big, that's blocking or inherit. Is a problem in your neighborhood on the water. I'll go out there and pick it up for you.
I'll call you.
Thank you.
Seriously, I got a huge big.
No coconuts.
More than a coconut, it's like the whole root,
But
the
yes.
ball.
I will go out there and pick it up if it's a.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there any other audience comments? No? Any emailed questions?
No, there's nothing online.
No, nothing there? Okay, good. We'll move on. Okay, so we'll have a motion for approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, a motion for consent,
Motion.
second.
I will second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right. Now we have the men of the hour. Representative David Silvers, good evening. Welcome to Lake Clark Shores. You have the floor. Please provide us with an update. It's a tough act to follow, but I know you're very eloquent.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sorry if I was a little late. I don't know where I was in the agenda. Was I late?
No,
No.
not late.
Oh, okay.
No, you're perfect.
Right on time.
I'll rescind that. This was the 8th and final year that I was in my last term in the House of Representatives. So before I go on, I just want to say it's been an absolute honor to represent Lake Clark Shores these past 8 years. One of the greatest honors of my life. Thank you. And thank you to the voters that set me back 4 times. I truly do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And to those that I'm speaking with my back to, I'm sorry I'm speaking with my back to you. It's just the way it's set up. But thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This past legislative session, we didn't have as much legislation passed through the chamber that we've had years prior. It is an election year. That may have had something to do with it. But there was a piece of legislation that I was hearing from a lot of constituents on. That's property insurance. House Bill 1503, Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, makes changes to the Citizens Property Insurance Corporation regarding home values eligible for citizens coverage, surplus lines insurers, and citizens glide path. So the problem is Citizens, if you're familiar with Citizens Private, it's a public-private partnership that will allow homeowners to get coverage if they're dropped from their policyholder. And I'm a victim of that as myself. I had the same coverage with the same property insurer for 20 years. They gave me a notification, you have 90 days. That's it. Never made a claim. And they're just pulling out of Florida. And it's tough. And had this legislation not been enacted, been signed into law, I wouldn't be able to get insurance. This increases the maximum home value eligible for citizens coverage from 700,000 to $1 million. May seem like a small piece of information, but a lot of people are going to now be eligible to be able to get coverage. So that's something that I think is an important piece of legislation that did come through the legislature this past session. Of course, Mr. Pinsky here is going to talk about many other pieces of legislation. I don't want to step on his feet and talk about other pieces of other bills. There's a nice piece of news. We were able to get $250,000 for the Pine Tree Bridge safety upgrades, and I believe it was $600,000 in 2020. 22. So now the project can fully move ahead, right?
Yes.
That's good news. Yeah. So we did have a record budget this past session. It was $117.5 billion, $49.4 billion coming from general revenue, $30.2 billion coming from state trust funds, and $37.9 billion coming from federal trust funds. So the feds were coming in with about a third, a little more than a third of our annual budget. And then a piece of legislation that I'm quite proud about is Senate Bill 556, Protection of Specified Adults. I worked tirelessly on this bill. We ended up having to take the Senate bill up instead of the House bill, just because they ended up passing their bill first. If they pass it first through their chamber, we'll just take it up on our side. That's fine. That's just the process. We've been doing that for a long time. The bill amends the Adult Protective Services Act to protect specified adults from financial exploitation, authorizing financial institutions, banks, from under certain circumstances to delay disbursement or transaction from an account of a specified adult. The specified adult would be somebody who's 65 years or older, or they cannot, 65 years or older, and they obviously have to have an account with that bank. And also they have to meet certain requirements. There are certain levels of protection for that individual, and they cannot, and this transaction cannot be delayed indefinitely. It's 3 days. And if there is an investigation, they do find that there is some type of financial exploitation, a judge of competent jurisdiction can extend the delay. The problem was AARP had brought the issue to the legislature a couple of years ago. We had tens of millions of dollars that was being scammed out of Floridians in our state, and mainly in the corridor of Tampa to Orlando to Naples. In that area, we had several sheriffs come to the House and explain to us in detail how many people are being scammed out of their life savings, and the banks know what's going on, but they cannot stop the transaction. They were not authorized. This would give them that authorization. So I think that's extremely important. It's fixing a problem.
Yep.
So that's something that in my last year, and then I don't know if you know this, but in my last 7 years prior to this year, I've been focusing on mental health for children. Every single year, or every single term, sorry, I've passed at least 1 or 2 pieces of mental health legislation that focuses on children in our school system. And this year I passed 951 behavioral health. And it's interesting when I explain this bill to certain individuals, they just look at me and think, how is that not already in statute? If a parent or guardian is present when a child is being removed from a school, and that child is being removed from that school for a behavioral health evaluation, a mental health evaluation under the Baker Act, before this legislation, the police or any law enforcement wouldn't be required to provide information of where that child is going. Now, this would require that. You need to be told where that child is being, that if the parent or guardian is there, they can ask for the information of where the child's going, address information, all the contact information. And it also creates an Office of Ombudsman at the Department of Children and Families to be a receiver of information of complaints, mind you, from families whose children have been Baker Acted in our schools, through our school systems, via our school system, excuse my language, sorry, and use that information to better provide the services for our children in our safety net behavioral health facility. So this past session, like I said, was my last. It's an honor. And until I became a father 2 years ago, it was the greatest honor I ever had. And now I'm a father of a baby girl, and I love her so much. Every day during session, my wife would tell me, Olivia was calling for you this morning when she got up. And I said, what'd you say? She said, Daddy will be home in 24 sleeps. Daddy will be home in 23 sleeps, and so on and so forth. Well, now it's nice. When I do come into when she gets up in the morning, whenever it is, Dad is here. And she goes, no, Mama.
She only really wanted me when I wasn't there. Now that I'm there, it's all mama all the time now.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. But she has my heart. I love her with all my heart. And I'm going to enjoy this time being here.
Do we have any questions for Representative Silver?
I just want to thank you for all of your efforts on our behalf. Do you have any future plans for public service?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Materio. Thank you for asking me. So though I am termed out of the House now, I am running for the state Senate in 2 years, in 2026. So over these next 2 years, I'm going to focus on work, being a father, and being a husband. And hopefully my daughter will go, yes, Dada.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. David, thank you for being a good friend of Lake Clark Shores. You were always very receptive to us when we came up to Tallahassee, helping us get meetings, taking our meetings with you, accommodating our schedule at times. And we know how busy you are. So thank you very much. We do appreciate it.
And Dave, whatever you do in the future, hopefully you don't forget about us, huh?
Of course not. LCS forever.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Okay, now we'll get a legislative recap from Mr. Richard Pinsky, Governmental Affairs Representative from Ackerman LLP. Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and to the new council people, congratulations. And let me tell you just a little bit about myself. The town of Lake Clark Shores has retained Ackerman, we're a statewide law firm, to represent you in Tallahassee, and as well as some local government. We do a lot on your behalf with the South Florida Water Management District, all the state agencies, and of course during the committee weeks and special sessions and regular session. We've been doing this for probably 7 or 8 years, and proud to say that we've been pretty successful. Almost every year we've passed something, gotten you some money, so we've had a good track record. So I thought what I would do really on your behalf, even though we have some veterans, well, kind of sort of a hybrid veteran, that I thought I would run through a couple of things just so you could understand the context of what's going on in Tallahassee. So Emily, do I just point it to the back, you think?
Yes. Robert, can you? Okay. There it is.
How do we advance it?
It's the arrows.
Yep.
It's AI. You just ask it. I'm just kidding. I can't wait for AI.
Well, there was a legislative session. Yeah. You want to just stand there and hit the buttons, maybe?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. So so a little bit about the Palm Beach County delegation. So you all know, Senator Bobby Powell does represent the town of Lake Clark Shores, who was going to be here tonight, but he had something come up that they could not make it. And of course, Representative David Silvers. I put an asterisk next to Senator Powell, Representative Silvers, and Representative Roth because they are leaving. They are term limited out. Bobby Powell, Senator Powell is not, but he's leaving early because he's going to be running for the county commission. The 2 new members of the delegation that we have picked up are Representative Gossett Seidman and Representative Catherine Waldron. So this is your delegation that when the mayor referred to going to Tallahassee, and if you do, this is the first folks that we check in with. And even though Representative Silvers and Senator Powell represents us, it's sort of a team effort. Palm Beach County does pull together and we look out for one another because not every member of the delegation is on necessarily a key committee that you need. So we all pitch in and help one another. Next slide. And so, so Representative Silvers is being a little modest. So in Tallahassee, he's being a lot modest. So in Tallahassee, this is the context of Tallahassee. There are 85 Republicans working. Great, thank you. And 35 Democrats. You can obviously see the challenge that is for a Democrat in the House. 28 Republicans in the Senate, 12 Democrats, and of course the governor and the 3 cabinet members alongside are all Republican. So when Representative Silvers says, 2 sessions ago, he was able to help us get $600,000 And this session, he sponsored our request for $250,000. He is swimming upstream, I will tell you, facing Republican leadership, convincing them that this is a need. And it's because he walks quietly and carries a big stick, and he is going to be missed. He's a respected member of the entire Democrat caucus and the entire legislature. So what he pulled off, it's more than just getting $250,000. It is an uphill battle. And it reflects what's happening in Florida. So a couple of factoids. I always check this. There's 5.2, almost 5.3, 5.25 million registered Republicans in the state. Now, in the last 30 days, this has gone up over 28,000 registered Republicans. And there's been a trend over the last 6 months. There's 4.3 million Democrats, and this is another month. I think last month was almost 15,000. They've decreased another 8,000 in the last 30 days. Interesting, same thing with NPA. They are going down in the trend, and other registered party has actually gone up. So it's not that the legislature doesn't reflect the constituents, but it is a trend that is happening in the state of Florida, that when you craft legislation and you decide what you're going to ask for and who you're going to ask it from, these are the metrics that go into that calculation, that we sit down with your city manager, your leadership, and we say, okay, here are the cards, the way they're on the table. How are we going to navigate that? Representative Silvers referred to this earlier. These are the top line numbers. There were 1,900 bills introduced this past session. He's correct. There was a very small number, 17%, or 325 bills total passed. 198 bills have already been acted upon by the governor. We only had 2 vetoes. One was quickly corrected in the legislature. 104 still awaiting his attention, and there's 23 bills on his desk right now. One of the 104 bills is, of course, the budget. So let's talk about a couple of pieces of legislation. First is the expedited residential permitting. I only picked a couple of these bills that impact the way your town council and the way your town operates. So one of the first things that you are going to notice a difference is the expedited residential permit. That has been preempted to the state in a lot of ways as far as timing and what you're able to do. So now you'll have a limited time to when a residential permit is complete, finally done, you have 30 days approximately to issue that permit. It also reduces the time of when the town goes back to the resident and says, you have to cure this. It takes it down from 3 times going back to the resident down to 2 times, and crunches that time frame as well. And then when the town does want to tell a resident, okay, you've got to come back to the drawing board again, the town will have to offer a virtual meeting to that resident. So there are some depends on which side of the ledger you're on. If you're the town, you now have some new constraints that you've got to follow. And if you're on the other side, of course, if you're the resident, I'm sure you're going to be happy. The next piece of legislation is the vacation rentals. This is another preemption that the state passed this session. This is basically the 3rd time that we've preempted. But with that preemption and the state taking over the obligation and preempting towns like Clark Shores from doing vacation rentals, is they must now, Department of Business and Professional Regulation must now initiate a database. And that database will have every single property, whether it's a unit or a home, will have a unique identifier number that will be able to be tracked. So if anyone is operating a vacation rental, it's going to be in the statewide database. The other feature, it also mandates now that whoever is operating, whether it's a corporation or a mom and pop, they have to be able to identify who is going to be responsible for answering that call at 4 o'clock in the morning when there's noise or someone's not doing what they're supposed to do. So that is going to be another good feature. And they did tweak the occupancy and reduced it so you won't have 25 people sleeping in a room. And the good part, even though the bad part is the preemption part, the good part is it does allow local government to do their own registry and will allow local government to do inspections. So depends again on your viewpoint, whether there was mostly bad or mostly good.
And we have that.
Representative Silvers touched on the Pine Tree Bridge repair. I think you mentioned about when the contract is going out, but this was a maneuver, of course, because from the time that that we received the money after the 2022 session, the time that you went out for bid and got those bids back, the cost of the project almost doubled. And so you were not able to proceed. But fortunately, we've been working with FDOT, told them the situation. They allowed us to come back this year. Representative Silver sponsored the extra money, and so soon that's going to be out the door. Okay, now let's get to the good stuff. I know you thought that was fun. So, Mayor, you know, but I think the rest of you don't know that every year when I come here, I harp on grants, whether it's the FDOT grant, whether it's the FERDAP, the recreation grant. Funding in the legislature is moving more and more to the agencies. Less and less member projects, and all due respect to members, but the direction is going towards grants. We've seen this with water projects. FERDAP, the recreational grants have been fully funded now for 4 years in a row. So basically you put in for it, you're going to get the money. So whether it's improvements, you want to add pickleball courts or whatever recreation is, getting those FERDAP grants in, I think there's this cycle is closing out in about 30 days. But these grants are the way that this governor and the legislature has actually been going more and more and more. So less about what can we get out of the legislature and more focusing on grants. So tonight we're just going to talk about the upcoming water grants. So last year, House Bill 1379, and I think Representative, when we were in Tallahassee, yeah. So Vice Mayor Maples, you were there when we talked about 3 years ago. Lake Clark we declared Lake Clark as an impaired water body. And we did that for the purpose of getting funding to clean up the lake. Yes, the direction was a lot of septic to sewer, but for other reasons that we wanted to make sure we could get funding as an impaired water body. Little glitch in state statute that said, as soon as you are declared an impaired water body, you're not eligible for the grant funding. And you have to go through the revolving loan program, which is also robust and very good. It's like a 1.2%, and it is another funding source. So what we did last session is we worked with DEP and we amended the bill to say, and so because we weren't, we were under a reasonable assurance plan, what they call a RAP, and that's how we were approaching the restoration of Lake Clark, and we're still under that. So we tweaked 1379 to say, you can't apply for a grant unless you're in a RAP. And that language now is statewide. Many other communities are taking advantage of it, but that was motivated Representative Silver's help with that. So that was something that we did that really benefits other communities in the state. But now because of that, this is the first year we're going to be eligible to go back into the water grant program at DEP. So in that bill 1379, they also changed the name from the old wastewater grant program to now it's called the Water Quality Improvement Grant Program. They also upped it by about another $40 million that's eligible for the 400 and something communities and 67 counties in the state. So there's competition. So here's where the rubber's going to meet the road, and that is, and typically these opened, the same thing with the Florida Resilient, which is a lot of stormwater flooding, hardening your community, seawalls, sustainability, but the wastewater grant is specific to water quality. So both of them used to open on July 1 and close August 31st. The new formerly wastewater grant program opened in May because they anticipate getting so many that DEP told me we just need more time. And so that's why it's opening now. It's open right now. The portal is open. We have until June 30th. So the question is to the town council, the policymakers, what do you want to ask for? And that is an issue. It's a policy issue, and something that maybe we can discuss tonight. What I did is for your benefit, I just put up there. Typically, we would be moving forward with our reasonable assurance plan, and we would be moving forward with the septic to sewer because it's always better to spend someone else's money. However, you have a situation, and I think one of the residents that were here earlier spoke to it, that because of the recent sewer spill, actually you had two sewer spills, one smaller, one larger, there has been further impairment to Lake Clark and your surrounding canals and water bodies, like Osborne, for example. So before the sewer spills, you could almost quantify in some way what the C-51 was doing to Lake Clark. So you start at Lake Okeechobee and you go past the sugarcane fields and you go past the horse farms and you go past all the municipalities and all their stormwater outfall. And the place where it all ends up is in Lake Clark. So we were declared impaired because we are at the bottom end, and I say that in a nice way, of the C-51 canal. So now enter the sewer spill. So when you go and ask for funding, and let's say you want to get more aggressive on septic to sewer, the cost of septic to sewer has just exponentially increased because to clean up that lake, you're just not cleaning up what incremental impact may be from septic to sewer and all the legacy nutrients sitting on the bottom. But now you're also taking on the cost of cleaning up the sewer spill because you've just inherited it. Unless this year, the water ask, we divert, as much as I like septic to sewer, we divert and we make our ask this year 100% mitigation and cleanup of the sewer spill. Then what we're doing, if we're successful, I've already spoken to DEP unofficially about it, because it's not our responsibility of what happened. We may take responsibility for septic to sewer. We take responsibility when something goes into our water body, but when somebody else puts something in our water body, we should not be held responsible. And so identifying and quantifying what that cost is and making that our grant request this year only would at least take off, that would put us back to, okay, what's it going to cost to either clean up the lake, septic to sewer, all the other things you want to talk about. But initially taking care of that sewer spill, and we have a good narrative, and that's what we do. We're salespeople. Representative Silvers does it. I do it. We're selling an idea, and that's what we'd be doing to DEP, convincing them that we need this money to mitigate that sewer spill 100%. So how much money does it cost? Well, the first thing that we'll have to do is identify and quantify just what the damage is from those sewer spills. So before you talk about cleaning it up, you have to talk about how much is impacted, how far out into the lake. What about the water pump, the vegetation, the water vegetation? How impacted is that? So once you are able to quantify that, and this has to be done quickly because it closes June 30th, that's how we arrive at the ask. We did a back of the napkin with your city manager, town manager. I do represent Palm Beach Zoo. I also want to thank Representative Silvers for all the help on the zoo this year. And we are cleaning up Baker Lake. And we are going to be vacuuming the bottom of Baker Lake. And that we got $750,000 from the legislature. Fingers crossed that the governor will approve it. And that was half the cost. And that is, we figured out the area was about 7 times or 8 times greater for what your impact's going to be. So you probably be back in the napkin ballpark asking for about $10 million to clean up just the sewer spill. But then what that does is that takes $10 million off of your ledger of when you finally get to doing the rest of your cleanup for Lake Clark because you've already taken care of the damage that occurred from the spill, and now you can get back focused on what is your responsibility as a community. My recommendation only, it means nothing because you are elected to make those tough decisions. But with that, I'm going to shut up now and happy to answer any questions. Sit down. Just want to remind everybody, just when you think it's safe to go back in the water, we're going to be back in Tallahassee on November 19th, and session begins March 4th. Thank you very much.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Pinsky?
Are you suggesting that we dredge? Is that, is when you say the sewer, the sewer spills, is that your recommendation, dredging?
The first step is to find out what the need is. I believe you are going to have to take off some of that sediment off of the bottom from the sewer spill because I think it was identified that you actually had stuff sink to the bottom. It also stuck to the plants. So probably the safest way, the most modern way to do it, we're doing it at the zoo right now, is to vacuum it. But there's going to be other ways to clean it. But the first thing is you have to find out an expert engineering firm tell you what is needed, how much does have to be vacuumed, what could be cleaned up organically, plant, et cetera. Then once you know that, then you have the price tag.
Joe, would that bill not be picked up by the municipalities that caused the spill as opposed to?
It was a contractor. And who knows who's going to pay for it ultimately. There might be lawsuits, but this is another option. I like the option. Might as well just check all the resources out there to see if we can get funding to clean the lake. So we would have to contact an engineering group, assess it, get us some kind of number before June 30th, and that would be our ask in that grant.
How likely is it that we would get $5 or $10 million? So that's our business plan?
And especially when we're asking for not a match, it's going to be difficult, but we do miracle work.
I would be more confident saying we will probably get something. Again, one of the things I do in special, I work with DEP a lot. And we've been successful here because of doing our advanced work with DEP. And so I've had an informal conversation already about the impact of this sewer spill right as well on our funny thing on the way to fixing our lake with with reasonable assurance plan. Funny thing happened. We took on, almost an acre or more of sewer garbage, and then we should not be held responsible for that. So there's no guarantees, but that's why I'm leaning towards, listen, when you measure the septic to sewer impact in our town, the legacy that's been going on for decades coming down the C51 is like probably 60 or 70%. Septic to sewers, maybe 20%. So we got a lot of crap, pardon the vernacular, to worry about. And the last thing we need is more of it that we have to take on. If we don't ask for the money and we don't bring attention to it, we just inherit it. It's now all part of the cleanup.
I love your suggestion. I think it's a very sound idea.
If we wanted to explore this opportunity further, Joe, what does that look like since we're on such a tight deadline?
What I recommend is we contact Mark Roos, who's actually the engineer dealing with the situation right now. They've got a lot of background knowledge. We'll make a couple calls and see if we can get an estimate and put a grant application together with Richard.
Now, Joe, we were talking about this most recent one, but we had two. The previous one was from Lake Worth.
Palm Beach Springs, Village of Palm Springs.
How is that tied together?
Yeah, we're going to ask to measure both.
Thank you.
Good. It was good. Richard, thank you for all your guidance when we're in Tallahassee. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to a presentation of 2022,
Richard.
2023 fiscal year audit. Christine Noel Ron, CPA with Carr, Riggs and Ingram.
Good evening.
You have the floor.
I'm Christine Olran. I'm the audit partner from Carr Riggs that oversaw your financial statement audits and examinations this year. So I was just going to give you some high-level changes of what happened this year compared to last year and kind of go over all the reports that you received because you have some more this year compared to what you usually get. So you did receive clean and modified opinions. That's the opinion that you do want to receive. In your general fund, your revenues were up about $438,000. Most of that was in your property taxes due to higher values. You also received increase of about $70,000 more in interest. So yay for higher interest rates for something. Your expenditures were up $890,000. So about half of that was increase in salaries. And then you also had capital outlay for pickleball courts and then new lease vehicles as well. So at the end, if you look at the general fund, your increase in your fund balance or what's kind of equivalent to what would be like net income, if you're used to company statements, was about $1 million. You did have a transfer in from your ARPA fund for approximately the same amount for the $1 million. So you used all of your ARPA funds this year and utilized them all. The trigger for using them all was that you got the CDBG grant, which was in your enterprise fund from the county, and that was $712,000. So that combined with what you had already spent on ARPA, it was best to go ahead and use all of it because you're going to have to do an examination. So when you hit $750,000 of federal funds that you've used in 1 year, you have to usually do a single audit. Since it was a combination of CDBG and ARPA, there's an option to do an examination, which costs less than the full single audit, a little less in scope. But we encourage Joe to go ahead and use all of it. So this way you don't have to worry about it next year, one time, and you're done. So that little 2-page report that you received, that's the ARPA examination. So it's already been filed with Treasury. There were no exceptions with anything that we found. Going back to your enterprise fund. So that fund had an increase in your fund balance of $610,000. So again, that capital contributions is where that CDBG grant shows up. Sorry.
Can I ask what page you're on in the book?
Oh, I'm just doing highlights.
Oh, okay.
That's
All
fine.
right. I'm sorry.
She's
No.
all over the place.
Yeah. I was gonna try to track
No,
along with some
yeah,
of the numbers
if
you
you
mentioned,
wanted to go, yeah, if you want to
just
go
so
by
we
page.
can see them together.
Page
Yeah.
5 has highlights, but it's fine.
The only reason why I mentioned it is I want to go back and just look at the numbers again after hearing another recap and read them for a third time.
So, yeah, so page 24
Thank you.
is your general fund. And then your enterprise fund, which is water, your water is on page 28, a few pages back. Since they're different type of funds, they're not on the same page.
Thank you.
So the enterprise fund has a change in fund position of $601,000. So those funds are self-funding, so you need to be charging enough to pay for all your expenses. And so you do have enough in there to be self-funding it, which is what you want to do. So now to go back to page 24, your CRA fund, you get a whole new set of financial statements this year. So you had a large increase, again, in your property taxes with the increase in value. So you hit that 100,000, over 100,000 in revenue. And once you hit that, you have to have a separate set of financial statements just for your CRA. So now you have to have a whole, instead of just auditing it as part of the town, you now have to do a whole set of financial statements of just the agency. And that has to be filed with the state with your annual financial report. And along with that, you also have to have another examination over the CRA. So we have to check it against Florida statutes relating to the CRA. So part of that examination, and that is in the separate CRA statements in the back of that page. So that is the other statements way back on page 33. You need all these separate documents. But we have to pick a sample of your expenditures, make sure you spent it in accordance with your CRA plan. And then there's other things such as you approved separate budgets. And the only thing we noticed was you are supposed to send the budget to the county within 10 days of approving it, and it wasn't sent to them. That's the most common thing we find because the county doesn't usually ask for it. And most people don't know that it's in the statutes because unless it's buried and you're looking for it, you don't know. So that's a very common thing to find, and I've never seen the state come back and ask any questions about that whatsoever. They're really concerned with if you're spending it in accordance with your plan document. So even though you have everything that's in those separate town CRA statements, it's all the same information that's in the full town statements. They're just requiring you to break it out separately. The Auditor General took the interpretation that us auditing it as a separate major fund was not enough. And then they wanted separate statements a few years ago. So extra cost to you, unfortunately, to make extra statements, so you can thank them for that. And then in addition to all of your major funds, you have your general, your ARPA, and your CRA funds. You have non-major funds. That's your law enforcement trust fund. And there really wasn't any changes to those funds. They're pretty static from year over year. And then if you want to follow along way in the back, we have all of our fund letters on internal controls. This is of the town's regular statements. So on page 78, we have one finding relating to permit revenue. So you switched your software during the year, and during the switch, the way it was calculating the fees was not correct. So we manually recalculated and just noticed if they were on a higher tier, it wasn't bringing in the first part from the first tier. So you undercharged a few people on your building permits. So they've already gone back to the software company and had them correct how it's calculating. I get the question a lot of how are we doing financially? Are we okay? Are we doing all right? We do have to do what's called a financial condition assessment. So the state gives us metrics, gives us 4 years of data. And so we put in your numbers and compare you to other towns your size, similar. And so almost every single time it comes out inconclusive. So you came out inconclusive, which is actually fine. You just don't want to come out bad, unfavorable. So, because there's a lot of metrics in there that go against each other. So they want you to have more revenue, but they don't want you to have more intergovernmental revenue. Like they don't want you to get grants, which seems crazy. It's good to get grants. You're not charging your taxpayers. They want you to have more revenue, but you go down if your millage goes up. I don't know, unless you're having a lot of property increases, it's a little bit hard. So inconclusive is fine, that's where you're at. Another way to look at it is your general fund. So your unassigned fund balance, excluding your capital outlay, because those aren't operating expenditures, you typically want at least 3 months worth of expenditures in there, and you have 4 months. So you have enough on hand. Hurricane comes through, FEMA's going to take at least 2 years to pay you. So you have the funds on hand to pay for the things that you need to. I know I went fast and I jumped a lot through a bunch of different things. And you have a lot of new papers. Does anyone have any questions about anything in here?
We're going to get a similar presentation in our next meeting, right? From you.
If you want, I can stand up here again. It's basically, that one's just the CRA.
Well, what I recommend is she just covered that, so she don't have to stay for the whole meeting in the CRA, if that's okay with, because she did cover the CRA.
It's totally okay with me.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for summarizing it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure working with your staff. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We'll go to unfinished business. Discussion on using a special magistrate for code enforcement. Mr. Lovello.
Thank you. We did discuss this last year, and then we had some turnover in the board, so we're bringing it back because we never really got a decision. First and foremost, we're very grateful for the board. We have a few members here. Chair Hughes, Debbie Moody, she's also on the board. It's nothing against the board. They do an excellent job. But it's a very difficult job. And what I said in the memo back in October, there was only 4 cities out of the 39 cities that still have a code board. And since this, we did this memo back in late October, 2 of those have dropped out. So now there's only 2 cities out of the 39 that still use a code board. And that one board, Riviera Beach, that was still using a board, this is how complicated this is becoming, all of the board members must be attorneys. Not one, all of them. Because there's a lot of due process. It's a very difficult job. It's complicated. There's ethics. There's chain of custody of facts. So if you get an appeal, you have to make sure you can argue that and win in a case when it goes to a board. It actually goes to 3 judges, I believe, right? It doesn't go to a jury. And a lot of cities are worried about that. And that's why they switched over to the magistrate system, because you have a judge who knows how to handle this. They're attorneys and they know how to handle due process. So my job is to tell you what's going on in the communities and other communities. And this is happening. As you can see, a lot of cities are now using a magistrate. So I obviously have to recommend what I think is right for the town now and in the future. And that's what I recommend, is we switch over to a magistrate. Again, nothing personal about the board. I like them all. I think they should be on other boards, and I hope they will do that. It's just there's a better process out there, and it's more defendable if it ever gets an appeal. It has other advantages that I'll happy to go over with you, but those are the main things. It's getting more complicated to do it, and there's more appeals. As you can see, we have 2 of them on the agenda tonight, and both of them are for over $100,000. So you would hire an attorney if you wanted to and appeal these decisions. And we have to make sure we have all our ducks in a row. So my recommendation would be to go to a magistrate.
Would Mr. Scheck be the magistrate?
No, he can't. But
as your town attorney, I am not eligible to serve as the magistrate. It would have to be someone and no one in my law firm could serve either.
They would have to be totally independent. Another advantage of not being your neighbors and not, it's a totally independent process where you have, hopefully, if you go forward with this, we would select someone who's fair and impartial, and him or her would decide that way on these cases.
I think it's important, we're a lot smaller than most of the 39 municipalities that you canvassed. And I think one of the beauties of Lake Clark is the neighborliness. So while I'm not 1,000% opposed to a magistrate, I think the local touch is important to keep, just to keep our small town, Mayberry RFD.
It's funny because I was sitting here thinking the opposite, that because I served on the code board, that neighbors cannot, I think in the entire state of Florida, right? They cannot remain anonymous anymore. You can't just
Complaints.
make complaints for code.
Right.
That now neighbors, and I experienced this when I was on the code board, are able to identify who turned them in a sense, and what the issues are. And it caused some unneighborliness.
I would have thought that most of the violations were identified by the code officer.
I mean, a lot of them are repeat complaints by neighbors as well. But we have an incredible, I think there's 2 of you now, right? That serve as officer?
Eric does that code enforcement and I do.
Okay. But Eric wasn't there when I was on the code board. Right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Chrissy, that is a positive. I agree with you, but there's negatives too with that.
Of course,
with that whole comment,
Right.
because you don't want a neighborly, you want an impartial, independent judge who adjudicates over the decision. And that's what you want. You don't want somebody educating the public. You want someone to come in here and adjudicate and make a decision on the case based on the facts. And that's your most defendable situation in the future.
So my biggest concern was what you were touching on, is that it actually presents the town with a liability if cases go to court.
But that liability is very slim. In the
Okay.
30 years I've represented this town, I cannot recall one case being appealed to the circuit court.
But they do happen, and they're happening more often in other cities, because we've been talking to other cities, and I just don't want to be the person 5 years from now when it does happen saying, why didn't we have a magistrate? So that's one of the reasons why I think it's a better process.
So Joe, if we choose to go to the magistrate, it doesn't restrict us from going back to a code board
No,
if we find that that process is not what we thought it would be.
no, a lot of those cities, Palm Beach Shores that, no, South Palm Beach, that just switched over, they kept the board for a while. Riviera Beach did the same. So you can have a hybrid system, or you can go, or you can have it just for a little, you can switch back and forth. But obviously,
Well, what would you recommend if a time frame to be if we went to a magistrate to figure out where it was and how it's working?
if you decide on the future, we would work on it immediately. Within 2-3 months, we would change the code. It takes an ordinance, which is 2 readings, 2 monthly meetings. And then we would have to, we can do at the same time, interview for a independent magistrate.
How would a hybrid system work?
I never knew I keep asking that question to the cities that had one, and they said it was, they really didn't use the boards. That was basically the answer I got, because I try to ask that. I mean, how do you decide who gets the cases to the board or who gets to the magistrate? And I never really got an answer on that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any community where they actually used both at the same time.
Yeah, so I think it was just a transition thing.
The current code board members would obviously be eligible to be appointed and serve in other capacities. If
I
they
would
want,
love that.
Right?
I would love that, yes.
And just, I know there's some current members here. Would any of you be open to speaking and sharing? I know you did last year when we had this come up, but would any be willing to get up and speak to that? Okay, sure. I'd love to hear it. Mr. Mayor, I apologize. Is that okay?
Quite all right.
Thank you, sir.
Come on up, Paul.
Mr. Mayor,
Good
town
evening.
councils, new members, thank you for letting me speak. For those of you that may remember Paul Harvey, I'm going to try to give you the rest of the story. I met with the town manager approximately 8 months ago. And at that time, he was pretty new, came from Juno Beach, and indicated to me at that time he had absolutely no experience with the code enforcement board. He only had experience with the magistrate. And at the end of that meeting, it was obvious to me that he wasn't interested in a code enforcement board. He was only interested in switching to a magistrate. That was disappointing because at that time he had not observed, that, to the best of my knowledge, or participated in any of our code enforcement boards. He didn't know how we operated other than what he saw on paper. Since that time, I have personally asked the town manager if we could recruit some new board members, because we have two vacant positions. That was 8 months ago, and he's denied all of my requests. Very disappointing to not only myself, but the other code board members. The more opinion, in my opinion, the more opinions we have, the better. I'm going to try to address a few of the points that Mr. Lobello made tonight, as well as in the past. I'll start off with code board members have no experience in equal protection or due process. I don't believe that's true, and I'd like to remind you that we do have an attorney that sits on our code enforcement board at our meetings. A code enforcement board may have difficulty with emotions, prejudices, and personal preferences out of the violation process. Code enforcement board members are instructed at the beginning of each meeting to recuse themselves if they have any firsthand knowledge of a property or communication with a property owner that might be coming for us that night. And I don't believe that, based on my past over 20 years of experience on the code enforcement board, that we've had personal prejudices impact our decisions. Only one special magistrate decides the case. In that case, that's obviously true. On behalf of our town's property owners, who we ultimately work for, we might have multiple opinions come together to make the most fair decisions for our property owners based on the ordinances that we are delegated to look at. Not one is based upon an individual who does not live in the town, not familiar with the property, and probably not aware of the previous issues with the property. Special magistrates is usually more efficient. This opinion has not been based upon the town manager's experience with our code enforcement board. His perception, so I understand, is that's the way it is. Any suggestion that the special magistrate will quicken decisions and make meetings shorter should not be the goal of our code enforcement board. It is easier to replace one special magistrate rather than code enforcement board members. The town manager has no experience with replacing code enforcement board members because he's denied all the requests. In the past, we've not had trouble recruiting board members. And I'd like to point out, I believe I'm pretty close on this statistic, that approximately 8 of the last 12 council members that have been appointed or elected to this board have come from the code enforcement board. Great stepping stone. Ms. Mateo, I think you might agree to that. I would challenge the town administrator to demonstrate any significant cost differential, because that has been brought up in the past. And I don't believe there'll be any cost differential between the special magistrate and the code enforcement board. You have an attorney that you're going to pay for. As a special magistrate, you have an attorney that sits on our code enforcement board now. We're all volunteers. Any staff hours can be manipulated without too much trouble, I would think. Training a special magistrate is simpler. Well, it's my understanding that you don't have to train a special magistrate, that they have experience. Maybe they're even on a list. You pick one. If he doesn't come, you pick another one. This is a person that doesn't live in our town, doesn't know anything about the town, doesn't have any experience with the properties. Is property safety an issue? And I think this is a very important point. Property safety is very important to us as a code board. And there have been many issues related to non-enclosed pools, things like that, where we've gone to and asked our attorney to, or the staff to go to the town council and take emergency action to get the safety issues under control with properties. I don't think that that's something that's in the magistrate's job description. I will say that a very true statement the town manager said was that code enforcement board members are residents and they know about the town, and using a code enforcement board promotes involvement of residents in their local government. I'll end by saying if the town of Palm Beach, and I think that actual town of Palm Beach still has a code enforcement board.
Them and Delray.
And I would say that if that's good enough for them, it's good enough for us. Does the town code enforcement board get the job done? Yes, we do. What's our goal? Compliance. Do we achieve compliance? Yes, we do. You're going to hear an appeal tonight of a case we've been dealing with for over a year. But we're at a point now where it's been dealt with. It'll be your decision if you want to take some further action on it. But most of our cases are dealt with, well, most of the complaints that the town deals with are taken care of right away. 90% of the people come into compliance. A much smaller amount don't, and they come before us and we deal with it. Do we do what's fair with property owners in the town? Yes, we do. Do we take important things in consideration and not be overly aggressive? Yes, we do. Do we appreciate the town's administrative staff that works with us? We absolutely do. And we tell them that frequently. And finally, I'll quote the town manager. As of a month ago, you guys do a great job. So if it's not broken, I don't think we need to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay. So that being said, yep.
Do you want to speak as well? Yes.
Tim Daughtry, 1410 Keller Road. I offer my unqualified support for Paul and the entire Code Enforcement Board. I had the pleasure of being on that board for, I think, about 12 years and actually quite a few years as vice chair to Paul being chairman. And I find them to do a very, very effective job, very conscious of everybody and everything that takes place. And they achieve good results all the time. And just finished up. If it's not broke, we don't need to fix it, okay? They work very, very, very hard. And I'll say this, since I didn't get renewed as a member of the Code Enforcement Board, I volunteered time and time and time again to fill those vacant positions there. And nobody's bothered to take me up on that. So I'm just letting you know, there's opportunities there that we could be using other people in this community to help take the load off too. But Paul does an incredible job as chairman and always has. Okay, and like I said, I had the pleasure of sitting next to him here on the dais, and he does it well, and he continues to do it well, and he will continue to do it well.
Okay.
Thank you, Tim.
Good evening. My name is Deb Moody. I live at 7510 Pine Tree Lane. I've served on the Code Enforcement Board for a few years now, 2, 3, something like that. It's been my pleasure to serve there, and I'll second that Paul does a terrific job every month. There are meetings that run a little long. We have meetings that can be short. My experience also has been, I am still currently an employee with the town of Palm Beach. And when I first started with the town of Palm Beach, I served as secretary for the Code Enforcement Board. I received my certification with level 1 certification in code enforcement. So I've had a lot of code enforcement experience. And you're right when you say that if it's good enough for the town of Palm Beach, it works. That their system works with volunteers, you know, being residents of the town of Palm Beach, just like we are residents in the town of Lake Clark Shores. I think it's very important that when you are brought in front of a board or in front of a magistrate, that you may be found guilty or not guilty by a jury of your peers. These are other residents in the town who have a vested interest in the town, as opposed to a special magistrate or a special master who really has no involvement in the community other than a paycheck. So, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Okay, that's good. That's it. All right, so I think we need a motion one way or the other. Motion to give the town manager the authority to move forward with a special magistrate, or a motion to continue with the Code Enforcement Board.
I'm going to make a statement before.
You can make a
So
I think I'm the only one.
We can make a motion and.
I'm going to
have
say
a
something and then
second,
I'll
have
make a
discussion.
motion. But I think I'm the only one that served with the individuals that are here and represent and have been representing. And I can say that that is the most difficult placement on a board. It can be gut wrenching at times. And you all do a phenomenal job and work so hard on our behalf. And I want to thank you for your efforts. I don't think anyone, until you serve in that position, can really understand how difficult that can be. And I think you all brought up a lot of very important aspects of that work and how you function. So first and foremost, thank you for that. And I'm going to make a motion that we keep the current code enforcement board as it is in placement and functions as it is today.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, hold on, you have some discussion? That's
Yeah.
okay, sorry, John, speak up.
Yeah,
Come on,
sorry,
jump in there.
sorry. For discussion, I know that the code does a fantastic job, and I know that the town manager, his heart is that he's doing the most efficient thing for the town. But I think that as Paul pointed out, that if it's not broke, right now, let's keep going what we're doing. But I think it's going to be important, to Joe's point, is maybe looking to also in those two positions, at least one of them recruiting another attorney to the board would be helpful in having that protection there, and being able to add their perspective and value from a legal standpoint and perspective. So if we have anyone in the town that's willing to step up in one of those positions as an attorney or someone in that position who would feel comfortable serving in that capacity of this town, that would be also helpful. So I don't know if we could somehow put that out there, encourage that. I know that would be a big help, and with the comfort of this thing, Joe, and I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, now that sounds like it's not going to be frozen. We'll put an ad out looking for candidates, and then the candidates would come in front of you. So you would make the decision on who to add or not add.
Can we mandate that one of the, no, you can't. Oh, you know where I'm going with that. Okay.
Riviera Beach did, but they have to change the code.
You'd have to change the code.
Okay.
Yes.
You could,
Understood.
you could, but I'm not recommending that.
Without a change to the code.
I mean, Riviera Beach has 60,000 people or whatever the number is. So I don't think it works for here.
And just so you know, I served as the attorney for the Code Enforcement Board for many, many years. But as I've tried to not have as many night meetings, Mr. Doney in my office has stepped up and is representing the Code Board. Mr. Doney also serves as a special magistrate for several cities. He has served in Fort Lauderdale, Lantana, and many other cities. So he is very, very well versed in code enforcement and in special magistrate.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, carries.
All right, thank you.
4-1.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay, let's move on now to, let's see, item 7 under new business, lien reduction request, 1740 Carissa Road. Come right up, sir.
Excuse me.
Hi, my name is Mina Mishrecki. My parents and I own 1740 Carissa Road. I'm here to ask.
Could you please move the mic a little closer?
Sorry,
Thank
is that better?
Yes.
Sorry, it's the first time doing this. So I'm just asking for compassion for this whole situation. We had tenants in there. We actually just evicted them. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, our fines are at $180,000 right now. The first two items were septic tank issues, which were caused by the tenant's truck. We fixed those. We got the notice about it in May of last year, and I have receipts from it got fixed in June. But it was, it took a while for the state to certify everything, send someone out, give us, paperwork saying that everything's in compliance. I think there's like 8 items on that list. Everything's in compliance. Also at the beginning of June, there's the septic issues. The tenants also built a structure in the backyard, which I don't understand why tenants would build something in someone else's property, but they built a covered patio. And we as soon as we found out about this, we had them remove it. And that's it. We thought everything was done. We didn't, everything else that was on that list, their truck was parked in the backyard. They told us they removed it, and we drive by, we don't see anything. Everything's in their backyard. We have, on the septic, we got fixed immediately. And then in late January of this year, we got a bunch of lien paperwork in the mail. And that was my first time knowing any of this was going on, and that we were, we owed money to the city or to the town. So, we came to, the code enforcement hearing, which I didn't, that was the only hearing I knew about. So we went to that, and we, told them everything that happened, and it was already, the liens are already placed. So they told us to come here, and it's been a couple of months since then. So here I am. I don't know if you guys have questions for me, but I'm kind of drawing a blank of what's happened. It's been a long time, and we fixed everything as soon as we could, as soon as we heard about it. But again, there were tenants living. I'm not making excuses. There were tenants living in the property, and we didn't have access, and they were terrible tenants. We had to evict them at the end of the day. They left at the beginning of April, and since then I did a permit for, even though it was already removed, I had to do a permit for the removal of that, retroactive permit or something like that. They walked me through it. We did that. They came and inspected it. Everything is in compliance now. But we have $180,000 of liens, which is 3 times what we paid for the house originally.
How long have you owned the house, and how long did you have tenants in it?
These specific tenants have lived there for 3 years. We've owned the house since 2011.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, I have some questions too.
So, and obviously, having talked with the code enforcement board, just established they do a really good job, but were you not notified, or did you not get any updates or phone calls, certified mail? I mean, I feel like, 182,000 is a lot of money to kind of sneak up on you. So I'm trying to figure out at what point did, all of this stuff begin to accumulate and you not get notified? That's my biggest concern. Were you not notified? Did you not get in contact?
At the beginning, when these first, when this first happened, everything was being sent to the tenant. They never gave us anything. And that's, I told them at the code enforcement office or the code enforcement meeting, that's what happened. And then the first actual letter we got was from the state about the septic issue. And that's when we took care of it, which was immediately. And then we found out about the other things, which we didn't know about either. And then we thought everything was, since everything was, done, we thought they were done. We didn't know we had to have someone else come out to inspect. And also, my parents are the main people that deal with this. They're in their 70s, and also English is not their first language. So they didn't know, because, we've gotten driveways, a driveway code enforcement thing before, and they fix the driveway immediately. So this wasn't it's not like this is something that we were, kind of oh, we're not going to fix this. We didn't even know about it. And when we found out about it, we took care of everything immediately.
So if I may, Dana, if you can help me. I know at this time, I guess you were running the deal there. How were we contacting the residents, letting them know that, if they don't see a sticky note on their door, but there's an issue and they're getting fined, are we making contact via phone, via email? Are we making more what are we doing there?
So this case particularly is Eric. He handled this.
Okay.
Usually what we always do is we notice the property by hanging the door hanger on it. We take photos of it, hanging the door hanger on the door, and we send it in the regular mail. And typically the residents will reach out to us and inquire about the violation. In this case, we'd have to ask Eric for specifics. I just asked him. I'm waiting for his response. But the property was posted, and like he's saying, somewhere along the lines, he did come to a code board meeting.
Yeah.
So there was
It was in February
communication,
of this year.
and all the postings and things were at the property, it looks like.
The first thing that was sent to our address at 7127 Clark Road was in January when we got the lien, like there was like, packets of lien issue, like things saying, $250 a day for this situation, $150 a day for this, all of that. So this was in January of this year that we discovered that we're being charged, daily fines for these things. We had no idea they were even going on. Because we knew about the issues which we thought were fixed. Well, they were fixed, but we never had anyone come out to I guess, inspect it or.
And I guess from that point, once you did know that, was there a code enforcement meeting that you attended once you
Yes.
received those?
It was the first one, after getting those, the first code enforcement meeting was in February, which I went to with my mom.
Okay.
And the property's completely in compliance.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on what the illicit discharge of raw sewage on the property, how did that happen?
I'll be
What
honest,
was that?
I don't know what it means, but I guess.
That means the septic tank probably is
Yeah.
not working
It was-
properly.
It was
something-
overflowing? I mean,
Yes.
Well, that's what happens. They
Yes.
come up when
I-
they don't function properly, they bubble
They-
over and
They spill out.
continuous.
So what happened was the tenant's truck, the one that also was being charged however much money per day for the last year, was they were parking it on the drain field. So it damaged something. So we spent like a total of like $2,500 replacing parts of the septic tank because of that. And now
The septic tank or the drain
the
field?
drain field. I don't know.
Okay, I'm just.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
all
sorry,
right.
I'm not
Just
a-
want to make sure we're all
Yeah.
clear.
No, ask me as many questions as possible. I'll answer them. I just.
Yes, Dana.
Eric said that he did have contact with her initially. I think he was dealing with Miss
My
Recky,
mom.
maybe, in regards to the raw sewage violation and the other violations they didn't talk to him about until recently. And they told him that they didn't know about them, like he's telling you.
What, you said you got notice from the state. When was that?
That was also probably around the same time that we got the initial violations from the town. And then the repairs were done in June. Which
Dana,
is a month later.
Are notices sent to the property owner's address that's like listed on Papa, or are they just
No,
sent to the address of the home that's
So-
in violation?
It's not homesteaded. That property is not homesteaded, correct?
Not, yeah.
But it would probably have the homeowner's address on Papa.
Yeah,
is. Our
so
address is-
I would have to ask Eric specifically, but typically you go on Papa and you send it to the address of what's listed on Papa.
I'm-
So do you guys have for 1740, is your home address listed?
Yeah, 7127 Clark Road.
Let me, I'll
But
just
the
double check
first,
it right
the
now.
first actual like piece of correspondence about this that we got in the mail was in January about the liens. It wasn't about any of the violations initially.
Charlie?
I'm not familiar with the case and I can certainly find out more, but generally the notice should go to the property owner of record on the county's public records site, and it should go to the tenants also. That's the general procedure. I'm not sure whether that was followed or not, but it should have been delivered to both. It can be posted on the door. It can be mailed to the specific property in violation, but the property owner of record should have also been notified.
That's correct. That's how I've always
And that
done
is
it.
what occurred.
And on there, well, I have to make sure that's what occurred. I'm waiting. And on there, I looked on Papa and it does say 7127 Clark Road, which is where the Mistreckys reside, because I'm familiar with that family.
Do we have any way to verify that or record of that we sent certified mail or something of that nature that states, we did that part of the process as well?
Yes, I'm asking
Okay,
Eric,
all right.
because in here it's not clear.
Well, then we should possibly have a motion to table this and bring this back and so that we can get all the facts before we decide on $182,600. Pretty large number.
Yeah, that's.
And my perspective is, and this isn't any personal,
He said the violations were posted to the address of the violation and the property owner's home. So they were mailed to the property owner's home, which is listed on Papa.
And when would that have been done?
You typically do it within like a day or two, because if you write the violation in the afternoon, you might mail them out the next morning.
so this
Eric,
was mailed
Mailed
to the owner of record's home, not to where the violations were occurring.
He said that he's posted them at the address of the violation. So the violations were posted at 1740 Carissa Road, which is the property in question and the rental.
Right.
He's saying that he mailed them to the 7127 Clark Road.
And-
So
And if that's what happened, that would be the correct procedure.
Right.
Okay.
Dana, can I ask you a question, please?
of course.
I know that obviously that front yards and fencing and boats and front yards are your purview. I didn't realize that code had any authority over somebody's backyard. And I see bare spots in the backyard on here. Can you elaborate on that for me?
We don't, but at one point somewhere along the line, Eric was granted access to the rear of the property. And when you're back there, you can, so like if somebody says, oh yeah, sure, you can come in my backyard and look at my dirty pool, and I notice that they have a palm tree, I can address that with them because
Well-
I had the right to be there.
There's also some times when it has to do with the pool that's in the backyard, if there's access to the pool, if it's open,
Right.
or things that are along the waterway too.
Correct. This property doesn't have waterway. And
Right.
if I remember correctly, it has
So we're talking about burned out grass when it says bare spots in the backyard.
it
think it's
could
more
be,
dirt.
if he wrote bare spots, it may have been bare spots.
So this was over a year. Is that how long this has been? Over a year of the entire code board going through all of these details that we're certainly not going to get to go. I mean, this is a very long process. Every step of the way, if I remember properly, we would even see what was posted on the door. We would ask for photos from the officers demonstrating that things were posted. This has probably been discussed endlessly.
At the code board, correct.
Right, at the code board, and passed down. There is a staff recommendation
Yes,
for this case, correct?
yes,
Can you elaborate on that?
sure. It's not uncommon when you actually get access to the backyard that you see that some of the violations that we wrote up are not actual violations. So let me give you an example. We wrote up a violation for electrical work without a permit. When we actually saw that it was just an extension cord through the window lighting the fixture, it's not a work without a permit. So there's two of them like that, which is the two second to last ones, the 21,800 and the 32,100. So both of those are recommended by our building official to be removed. We can't do that, so you as the council have to remove that. So if you remove those two, it comes down to 128,700. And then there's a question of the truck. Was also in the recommendation, and you're supposed to deliberate on when was that truck removed and hear the testimony from the homeowner on, because we couldn't see when the truck was removed because it was in the backyard.
And again, like we didn't have a good relationship with the tenants. Like I said, we eventually evicted them. They told us the truck was gone back in September. Also, we couldn't see the truck from the street, so.
I do think it's important for us to take the staff recommendations into consideration. We're not going to ever be there in the backyard going into the detail that staff was specifically on those two cases, correct, Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
We recommend definitely removing those two.
The sewer issue was ongoing. It was backing up in the house. It was coming down the street. We had numerous complaints.
Mhm.
And I find it hard to believe that the owners that lived in the immediate area didn't know about it because it involved the health department. And the neighbors were complaining. We went through a lot, the town went through a lot of aggravation to try to get this corrected.
That was corrected within a month of the initial, the original complaint.
After you remove those two.
Okay. But staff is recommending just those specific two cases, and then the lien reduction would be, what's the amount that you just said?
So there's 128,700
Yes.
on the table.
Right.
Now, with all due respect, sir, we've heard this, maybe Taylor has, because she's been on the board, and I've been reading the minutes. And I was here for one of the meetings that didn't show up. We hear a lot that we didn't reach out to them or they didn't do that. And we've all said if we were noticed by Dana that, hey, Greg, you can't keep that boat there anymore, you move the boat. If you notice you need to move the truck, you make sure the truck gets moved. And my problem with all of this is that staff exerts all of this stuff. This goes through a year of code enforcement, and here it is brought to us to make the final determination on where do we land on $128,700. So we have learned the hard way before you folks up here, where you do these reductions. This isn't anything against you, but this is a common tactic out within this whole community of Palm Beach County, that they know and think, hey, code enforcement will eventually send it to council, council will waive it, and that's that. It doesn't help our situation with keeping things nice here and this is one of my concerns with the whole septic to sewer, and why we did try, and I wish David was still here, to get legislation in just for at least an inspection of the septic tanks and the drain fields every 5 years. That would tell these communities that have this on the waterway whether they're functioning properly or not. So where do we want to land on $128,700? That's the
Mayor, I
question.
very much appreciate everything that you just said. And I feel equally confident, having served on that board, that the correct outreach was done and notification was done. My only thoughts are with the staff recommendation. If there was something that they said they went and inspected and it was not actually a violation, then
Well,
I would.
They removed that, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was 180 in the.
Right. So I would feel good about that aspect being removed and moving forward from there with the amount that was just on the table.
Okay, so that's the first. You want to put that in the motion? That's the first portion, correct?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay,
Remove,
put that, make
Do I
that in
need
the
to
form of
say-
a motion, and we'll get a second and we'll vote on it.
remove the two cases, one for 21,800 and the other one for 32,100.
Do I have to say those two numbers?
Yes, they're long numbers, but
Okay.
Case 230579 and case
Thank you.
2305.
Can I just say the case number?
yes.
To make a motion to remove the fines associated with case 23-0579 and 23-0580.
Yes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
Okay.
clarification, that was for the structural work and the electrical work?
Pardon me?
Yeah, that was for the structural and for the electrical. Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right, so now we have $128,700 still left to decide upon.
So, Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
right?
please.
The semi truck that was said to be removed and wasn't, were we able to verify that? Did we have any way to confirm that at that date? Was there?
No.
No, so that's still saying
It's in,
there's no real hard.
it's in question. That's why we listed that.
Okay.
Also, we didn't own it and we had no control over moving it out of the property.
Well, yes, you
You-
do.
if
You're
it's
the
your
owner of the
property,
So like.
you are
drain
responsible for
field
that
that
Dana wants to speak over there.
Destroyed, you were responsible for repairing it, right? So it's
But
kind
we-
of the same thing.
But you're right, John. We don't know when it came into compliance.
All right.
Dana had her hand up. Dana, what do you have to add?
So just adding, they do own multiple other properties in town, and Eric has handled the violations the same way,
We own one.
posting.
It's just our home that we live in and one other rent. We have two rentals and homes.
Right.
Three, so it's
You
multiple.
own three.
Yeah.
You have other rentals.
One of
So yes. So he did it the same way. He posted their violations on the property and mailed them. And that's how he handled 1740.
Right, the rest
They-
of this
they were
case,
definitely mailed.
legitimate violations that have gone through a
Correct.
year's worth of discussion and oversight through the code board and all of the proper notices.
Correct. And then with the dump truck, Eric came to me about that because he wasn't able to confirm a compliance date. And I like to be consistent, and in my entire employment here, I've always given the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes you can meet in the middle if the owner is saying, hey, I came into compliance this day, and you really can't confirm anything else. I've always gone off of that date and given them the benefit of the doubt, which is what we did in this case as well, because he couldn't confirm for sure, as it's noted over here. So we were giving him the date that they said September 1st it came into compliance,
So
instead of when Eric physically inspected it on April 30th.
can I clarify that?
Yeah.
So you're saying that the 54,000 is actually based on him coming into compliance in September?
No, it's not.
No.
Oh, that's
No.
based off of the April one.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
because Eric was able to inspect the property in April.
Yeah, we know it was in compliance in April, but the property owner saying it was in compliance before that. We just couldn't verify it.
Okay, so we know it wasn't in compliance on April 30th, 2024. It was not in compliance.
Yes.
Correct.
But they're saying that it was in compliance back in September 26, 2023.
You have to listen to the applicant when he
Yes.
thinks it was in compliance. Yeah.
Wait, so
Eric wasn't able to advise that it was still in violation. That's why he,
on April 30th, 2024.
on April 30th, he was able to advise it was in compliance,
It was in
but
compliance.
he wasn't able to say that it was a continuing violation.
From September
Correct.
2023.
Yes.
Okay, so that's neither.
So in all fairness, that's
Right.
where I was.
Okay. So there was no real determination on the truck being there past the date that the resident said that it was not there.
Correct.
Okay.
Historically, the council has held the violations to businesses that own homes in the town, and there's a reason why. And you can all imagine that one. So just food for thought.
Dana, has his other property ever had any violations?
Yeah, the other properties have had violations, and Eric said that he treated them the same by mailing it to their address.
What sort of violations have the others had?
I'd have to ask.
I can tell you. We had, the driveway was needed to be resealed. And also we have a tenant at the other property that had a truck that we had, he removed it. That tenant is next door to my parents' house. So we see him all the time. So it was a lot easier and it was in his front yard. It wasn't in the backyard. So it wasn't like hidden.
If you would like, I could walk next door and get the folders if you need that information, and I can get it for you.
Chrissy, you want, she says if you want the folder signal?
Oh, no, it's all right. I mean, we can discuss each one of these line by line, but I would not be in favor of reducing the sewage at all. I mean, that's a public health hazard.
Well, the receipt of taking care of it was 1 month after the violation was issued.
How did you rack up $30,000 in 1 month? I don't think.
No, we didn't know that we had to have someone come re-inspect it outside it someone from the state came. Not from the town.
Mr. Mayor, can I speak? Mr. Mayor, can I speak?
Emily.
This is Emily.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So I'm the recording clerk for the Code Enforcement Board, and the sewage violation happened in May, and his mother came to our Code Enforcement Board at that time. And I remember the board and Eric told her that she needed to give him a call when they're in compliance, when the county says it's okay.
And that wasn't done.
No.
No. Okay. So
Thank
I didn't
you
know
for that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Emily.
My mom is 70 years old and her English is not that great, as you met her.
we need a motion. I can't make a motion.
So-
I already know what I'm thinking.
What are your thoughts, Mayor?
My thoughts are this is a business.
Said that.
They need to pay the remainder of the fines. We remove the ones that they considered invalid. We've heard and heard again, I didn't reach out, I didn't this, I didn't know this, I didn't know that, which, okay, I understand. However, code enforcement, code board, now these things all evolve, and then the word is out that the council won't enforce. And we have enforced the violations on other businesses within the town that operate businesses. And if we want to stay fair, we need to impose this, because there's others who have come before him that were made to pay these violations on structures that they purchased, knowing that they were there, thinking that it was possible to throw themselves on the mercy of a council and then have them waived. And that's not the way to do things, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, what are your thoughts on potentially reducing some of the semi-truck backyard deal? Just simply
I know where
because-
this property is, and I've seen that semi truck there, and it's been,
Okay.
we've talked about it, and we've talked about it, and we've talked about it. They
Okay.
just, continue to violate, in my opinion.
Okay.
And people will give what we're willing to take.
Mhm.
We
And
evicted
if-
those people. Like we had no control over
I
them.
understand, sir, but this is part of running a business and this is part of the
This is
drill.
our town,
I
too. Like,
understand.
we live-
I've been reading the minutes on this all along, so, and I agree with Christie, the sewage discharge is just, we're trying to fix all this stuff and we're just running into opposition everywhere. And the council's getting beat up when we're trying to do the right thing for the environment, our community, where we live. And it's a little frustrating if you put yourself in our shoes.
No, I
And
understand.
I'm sure the code board is frustrated as well with a variety of different things. So you asked me what my thoughts are. Those are my thoughts.
We have the receipts from the repair from the septic from June.
So I believe that we took into consideration the staff recommendations on the fines that were not actual issues and reduced a significant amount of this, fine amount, the lien. I would make a motion that we do not put lien reductions in place for the additional cases 23-0533, 23-0534, 23-0577, 23-0578, and 23-0581.
I would not be opposed to some reduction in the bare spots in the backyard because that doesn't really affect the neighbors or the quality of life or the aesthetics of Lake Clark. But other than that, I agree with.
I just don't know if you can line item it without having all of the years worth of detail for every single one of these fines and how much outreach has been done. And
it would be nice to hear from Eric actually, but
that is true.
Could we have Eric come talk to you guys? Because I've been, like, as soon as I've gotten into communication with him, we did everything we could to fix the issues.
We can call Eric.
You can call him.
He's
ask a
available.
question.
I can
Yeah.
absolutely call him and
Yeah.
we can put him
Would
on
you like that?
speakerphone.
Board, would you like?
sure, why not?
Okay.
Fine by me.
How would we just use my cell phone?
Yeah. Modern technology.
I didn't know if we had like a fancy.
This is really not a business. It's not how, this is my parents' retirement. And it's a lot of money and this is devastating.
Am I
for us
on
if that-
your work phone,
It
right?
is a lot of money, but you've got to be careful as to who you rent to.
We made a mistake. And that's, I'm asking for forgiveness and compassion. Everything that we did, we took care of as soon as we could, as soon as we knew about it.
I sincerely appreciate everything you're saying. My parents are in their 70s as well and still maintain and operate their small business here in Lake Worth Beach and have been on the hook for many things over the years because it's their business and that is their duty as those business owners. So I completely appreciate what you're saying.
Okay. I do have Eric here on the phone. This is Eric Richwagon, our code enforcement officer.
So if you have a question for him, Mayor, you can ask.
Who has a question for?
Well, would he just like to give us a little background from his point of view?
I think he needs questions.
Yeah, you
He
need
needs
a little more
questions. We have the
specifics,
background.
because it's kind of a long case if you
Yeah.
can see the.
If
full
you have
address.
any specific questions, because he can't show favoritism, whatever, he just
Yeah.
asks.
You just
But
ask the
you
questions.
can
that
give
you-
background as to conversations he may have had with the tenants or with the.
Well, ask-
That's the question.
He can hear you. Ask him. Get ready in your microphone. He'll hear you.
Eric, could you give us some background on conversations that you may have had with the homeowner and the tenants?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm going to start from the very beginning, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Okay, so an initial complaint came in from Eddie, who works for town hall. He had referenced that there was a raw sewage leak there, so I had arrived to the property. I knocked on the door. The tenants had answered. I asked them what was going on. They told me that their toilets weren't working and that one of the owners had come and had removed something. So I had permission to be on the property. I went to the side of the property and noticed where a makeshift trench had been dug out and raw sewage was freely spilling. I had contacted the state health department. I had issued my violation and the health department came out and issued theirs. The violation was posted to the property and was sent to the homeowner. Sometime after that, I did get in contact with one of the property owners, Miss Renck. She understood the situation. She said that the problem was being addressed and that they had hired someone. That was the last that I had really heard based on the raw sewage. Now, she did provide me with an email a couple weeks ago showing when the health department did officially go out there and close their violation for the raw sewage. So that was the initial contact for that. Let me know which other conversations you want me to discuss.
And so while you were on the property, you noticed the semi truck and the bare spots in the backyard?
During the initial, no, I only noticed the raw sewage. That's why the raw sewage was initially violated. When I coordinated with the state health department and when the inspector came out, the inspector knocked on the door of 1740. The tenants answered, the health inspector asked for permission to go into the backyard to see if there was any additional discharge from the raw sewage. And at that time, that is when I was able to go in the backyard. That's when I saw the semi truck back there. That's when I saw the bare spots on the grass, and that's also when I saw the makeshift patio structure that I later violated for not having permits.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eric.
Any other questions? Okay, no further questions.
The digging of the trench would signify a flagrant disregard for a proper repair.
That was not us. We had a company come out 3 times to pump it and also repair it and change out some of the parts.
So when did the trench come into play?
I have no idea. Same with the structure was also built by the tenants. They removed it before they left.
Okay, we're going to call the question. Do we have a motion on the table? We're going to put a motion on the table?
I will, friend, you put me in between a rock and a hard place. And, yeah, anyway, so, the town code enforcement board, we just established they do a pretty good job and they work hard to try to make sure they're being fair and trying to do the right thing. And unfortunately, it breaks my heart. And God, I don't like doing this, to be quite frank. And I understand having.
Don't do this to my family, please. We did everything we could.
And I understand that. And I believe you did. And, the reality of it is that the time that went past, it was just too much time. And I know you did everything you could in the time that you had when you found out about it to make the right corrections. But I'm going to have to make a motion to keep the liens in place, the 128,700 liens in place for the cases that were not addressed in a timely manner. And again, I understand that you guys weren't there, you didn't live there, but responsible homeowners in this community are all responsible to try to take care of this thing together. And again, it breaks my heart. I'm sorry to do it, but I'm going to put a motion there.
Can I say one thing? The septic was taken care of within 30 days of getting the violation. The state gave us they came out, but we have receipts from the company that fixed it. It's not like, we didn't know that we have to have someone come out and check it other than, the state came out. We didn't know someone, this is, I don't know what to say.
And I understand that. And it's definitely concerning that you guys weren't notified prior to and all this going on. I just find it hard that the residents, they can't flush their toilet and the sewage is leaking everywhere and you guys don't get a call. Like, I just think that, I mean, it was just a bad situation. But again, I'm going to have to make the motion to move forward with the liens on case number 230533, 230534, 23578, and 230581.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0.
Brings me no pleasure.
I don't think it brings any of us any pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to the next item.
I don't see them in the audience. I don't see them in the audience.
Another lien reduction request for 7011 Haddon Road. Is there a representative here for that?
No, we don't believe that there's anybody here, Mayor. I don't see anybody.
Okay. Does anybody need some background on this?
We spoke about it at our last meeting and it's a miserable situation over there. The home doesn't have windows. The neighbors are complaining of rats. A number of the neighbors got up and spoke at the last meeting. We voted to put it in foreclosure at our last meeting. And I move that we continue forward in that regard
And,
without any lien reduction.
okay, is there a second?
I will second that. Oh, Bridget, please.
I'll second.
Councilmember.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Charlie, did you want to add something? I'm sorry, sir.
I just wanted to say on that last case, if you are so inclined and they can show proof that the septic tank was in compliance sooner, that you could reconsider
We
that
can.
motion at your next meeting.
Okay.
If they could show evidence that it was in compliance. I know that was a painful decision. And that would be one way of alleviating some of that if he can show that they were actually in compliance.
Because the health department would give you.
Eric advised to us that she showed him the paperwork from the health department.
That it was in compliance.
Correct. He said
Currently.
that on the phone.
Well,
I mean, it's not up for discussion per the motion that we just made, but you're saying we can bring them back before
yeah.
us.
You can reconsider. It's an appeal. They can prove it. We can fix it.
Exhausting.
But that's, when you ask me what my opinion is, sometimes that's what they need to do. It should have been done before. Like I said, if you came to me and told me there was a violation on my property that needed to be fixed, I wouldn't wait till after. I would make sure that, and it's just not because I have experience up here, it's just because what you owe to your neighbors too is to be respectful of them and take care of your property. I would fix it. And Dana has approached me on a variety of things that stuff passes you by sometimes when you're working and you're busy and this and that and all that kind of stuff. So they can do that. Yes, Taylor.
Since we have two members of the code board here, can you tell us what the original fine starts at?
I think it's in our chart here.
Yeah, what is?
It's like $50 a day, $100 a day. It's
Starts at zero.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So is it possible to open that up to them for that? I don't know what needs to be done to make sure they understand.
Let me tell you the procedure, and it should be done no later than the next meeting. A member of the prevailing side, which would be the four of you who voted for against the lien reduction, has to make a motion to reconsider. That motion has to be seconded and voted on. If the motion to reconsider passes, then you open it back up, receive that additional information, and then make a decision as to whether or not you want to keep it the same or reduce it further.
And it would only be a reduction in that specific.
And in that one case, but
Yeah.
I also just want to make sure that I understand properly. So when these fines come down, it's for the entire duration that this process has been going on. with all of the opportunity to correct this issue, just because the entire property is in compliance right now.
Yes.
Just because the property comes to compliance, if we are setting a precedent, in my opinion, that if they come into compliance at some point, then we will reduce their lien amount. So that is one thing I want us to take into consideration.
Well, there should be some consideration on the date that the work was actually cleared by the health
Completed.
department. Because the health department puts the final seal on that stuff, not us.
So they didn't come, just because they didn't call us is why
Right.
they didn't notify us.
And
Okay.
we've had that before, come before us.
Okay.
Yes.
I think you're asking a legal question on, so I would ask Charlie to answer that question.
Yeah. The procedure in many cities is spelled out in an ordinance, and they actually have an ordinance which gives them guidelines and procedures for reducing liens. Lake Clark Shores considered that many years ago and did not implement that. And therefore, you review each case on an individual basis. You are well within your rights to not reduce the lien because the town did not get the notification that they were in compliance. The notices all say, when you come into compliance, call the code enforcement person, let them know you're in compliance so they can stop the fine running. You also are well within your rights to say, they made a mistake, they didn't call us, but they were in compliance, and therefore we have the ability to consider reducing it to the date they actually were in compliance rather than the date that we were notified.
Now, you said notify them, you have to notify by certified mail. Is there a process in that, or is it just?
In most cases, it's a phone call to the code enforcement person to come out and verify that they're in compliance.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, now fast forward, if we want to reconsider this. And
How will they be notified,
How will
she's
they be
saying?
notified to come back here for the appeal to reduce?
We would notify, staff would call them.
Yeah, we would just
a
call.
phone call?
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm sorry, just a phone call.
Yes.
yes.
So
I'm
would we
sorry,
make
I
a
misunderstood.
motion to put that in place?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? So reduce it to the point of whatever day the notice from the state says, right? Is there math that automatically applies to that case? So we got to the 15,000, is there math that we automatically deduct and go back to that point?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So there-
and you could get that information
Okay.
before you make your decision.
Can we do that? Because it's not about the other things that are listed there. It's really about when they came into compliance, and the sewage piece is very important, but at the same time, what's important about that is when they fixed the issue and came into compliance via the state. And so I'd like to be able to find out that number and specifically state it's going to be, instead of the 15, it's going to be 12 or whatever the number is based on backdating that to that.
And I think that would be the appropriate way to handle it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Who would be responsible for obtaining that information for you to have?
They would have to present that.
They have to.
So
He should have had it tonight.
Okay, yes.
But he didn't. So,
Okay.
So yeah, just
So we don't
because
need to
he
reach out
called
and
him-
ask for it is what I'm.
no, he has to bring
verifying.
proof
Okay.
from
Got
the
it.
health department when he was in compliance.
Okay, so
And then
they'll
it-
just bring it to you guys next month.
It would go backwards to that 250 a day, that fine.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll
it would be helpful to have it ahead of time so we could make the calculations
Right.
before the meeting.
So I'm asking, do you want us to go ask them for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
But
We're happy to help.
We
Yeah.
sort of said two things
And-
there. So.
Just,
I'll make sure we get it for you.
okay,
Maybe we
perfect.
can even
So
get it
just
for
to
you
be
tomorrow.
clear on this motion, it's specifically related to case number 230533, case number 0534.
Well, your ultimate decision would be based on that, but the motion to reconsider is to reconsider the motion that you made. So you put the whole matter back on the table. And then you're only going to make your new motion based on those cases that you just spoke about.
Yeah, is that and that new motion that we talked about, would that be a second motion? Just once I open it up with the first motion, the second motion specifically is to make it on those two cases? God have mercy. She's Louisiana.
Do we have his phone number?
You want to go drive over there and get it for you?
No.
No, we're moving on. He can come back. So let's
all
put a
right.
motion on the table here.
So want to make a motion to, what's the correct word, Mr. Scheck? Reconsider?
A motion to reconsider, but you're not going to reconsider it tonight, as I
Right.
understand it. It's a motion to reconsider.
At the next council?
Yes, but to make that, to put the matter back on the table if the motion to reconsider passes tonight for the next meeting.
For June 3rd.
Okay,
So first it's a motion to reconsider, and if that passes, you need to make sure that your motion includes the fact that the reconsideration will be at that June 3rd meeting, not tonight.
thank you.
Got that, Mary?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to listen to the tape because this is just going round and around and around.
All
I'm
right, so
sorry.
let me get it down so we can move on. Let me make a motion to reconsider. I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the liens on property 1740 Carissa Road at the next town meeting in June.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to cause additional confusion, but I know that you all were making a very difficult decision, and I wanted you to know that you did have the ability to take that into consideration if they can bring you proof that it was complete.
And thank you for that, Mr. Scheck. But what I hate to do in this situation is give them hope that we're going to waive this whole thing again.
Oh, no, no. Well, the whole thing won't get waived.
No, I know, but like, I don't want them
Doesn't
thinking that
say
they
that
can
in
come back and kind of try to figure that
Well-
out, but I wanted to try to be specific on the two cases
We
that
can make
were
this
only,
easy for you. It's right here.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah.
oh, we have it.
Okay.
She had emailed it to him. That's why he just said she sent it to me. It says, it's highlighted for July 26th of 2023, visited the property for cleanout cap follow-up. A valid cleanout cap has been installed. Complaint will be closed. So the compliance date with the health department would be July 26th of 2023. And this
And
is the copy
What was
from
the
the health
issue?
department.
What was the issuance date?
From the health department, they issued it on May 10th of 2023. Notice it says NOTC issued and sent via FedEx with a tracking number.
It says date complied, July 26th on our list here. So the fine that was calculated was for that time period that you just described.
Yeah, because he kept saying 30 days. It's a little more than 30
It
days.
was like 2 months.
So what, it was issued on May 10th?
That I'm reading the health department.
So it was actually, there's no need for anything because it was actually to that date.
Yeah,
Already reduced.
It was already
It-
reduced to
yep.
that date.
Correct.
Yeah, it says exactly that
says
number
that
or that
Yes.
date on our
The
document.
numbers calculate to 60 days.
So if I may rescind.
Yep.
If I may rescind
go.
that last motion.
Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Thank-
Sorry I
thank
missed
you.
it. You're welcome.
And I did not realize that, or I would not have made the suggestion.
Nor did I.
No worries. Mr. Mayor, may I rescind that last motion?
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's nice to know that we have that option in the future and that we can stand behind the decision that we made this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, moving on. Let's move on to,
Paul's got a comment.
Paul's got a comment? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Just a quick comment.
Sure.
For future references, when the code enforcement board reaches a process of a lien, recommending a lien, we have been exhaustive in our efforts to make sure that we've communicated with the property owner.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, over and
I-
over. Did you get the message? How did you get it? And be assured that it's not unusual for someone like, in that particular case, tell us they didn't know.
Which is what I said.
They didn't
We've
get the
heard this
information.
before. This is a ploy.
If you own a property, you're responsible for it. You need to go to the property, make sure your property's okay.
I was here the night
don't
that
think
you
that
folks called them and they didn't show on that night.
Right.
So I was here that night.
Oh, I agree with you, Paul. It's just difficult when someone looks you in the eye and tells
That
you,
was
"It's hard
very
to my
difficult.
family." And the guy's
Yeah.
literally almost in tears. And he's like, "You're taking my family's retirement." And I work in
Yeah.
retirement and financial planning.
But they
It's
did
pretty
have a
tough.
lot of opportunity to come before.
Yeah.
And they've already looked at us that way.
Yes.
Yes.
And I
Thank
think
you, Paul.
I think you all know the reason that you had to make this decision is before the lien gets filed, the code enforcement board retains jurisdiction to reduce the fine or keep the fine. Once the lien is filed, then the code board loses that jurisdiction because now it's a debt
To the town.
to the town.
City.
And the town council is the only one that can address it once it's recorded.
Thank you.
And that's why it was before you tonight, not the code board.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to status reports. Chief, you're front and center.
Thank you, Mayor. My report is attached. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Any questions for the chief?
Thank
No?
you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, Chief, thank you. Charlie?
My report is included in your packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Scheck? No? Okay, Mr. LaBello.
Before I go over the status report, you heard Richard's recommendation on going for the dredging, or they actually call it something else now. They call it lake rehabilitation. So dredging is such an ugly word. So do you want us to start that process and give you an update in June, on June 3rd? But it would give me a lot of time to start it, talk to engineers and getting a grant application together.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a wonderful idea.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I just need 3 nods. I said 2 nods.
Thank you for, yes, thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, staff report. Our next meeting is on a Monday, which is June 3rd. And then the meeting after that is back to our normal July 9th. That will be a budget. It's the first budget workshop. I'll go over that all with you. Tomorrow we have our senior luncheon. It's actually a good one. If it's on navigating Medicare. Charlie, you're invited. No, actually, it's interesting for me too. But no, we have a good speaker. It's for educational purposes, but I've heard him speak before, so I'm inviting everybody to come to that luncheon tomorrow. On the 31st, we have the summer food truck. We're going to have a big water slide in the back. We're actually having it all in the back by the basketball courts this time. So it's going to be really nice. You got the tennis camp, the fishing camp coming up. And then obviously, you know about the July 15th, the septic to sewer conversion information session. As I already mentioned, on the bridge, we're still waiting for the governor to approve the budget so we can execute the agreement for the bridge. An update, I think it comes later, but I'll just say an update on the artistic drawing. I did get a bid, it was too high. So I called some of the people I know on how to get it cheaper. And it looks like we said we've gone forward with a $700 price tag, so not too bad. And we actually paid extra because it was first $500, but it was just I didn't like the elevation. It was just going to give an aerial view, and now we have like an aerial view to the side, so you see the topography of the water and the bridge and the rails and all that. So for $200, I thought it was extra money well spent. So that's just an update on that.
Given that we just made 128,000.
Yes. Well, you don't make it till you actually get it.
I know.
Too soon, too soon.
The town just almost completed or did complete the camera system. It's 90% done yesterday, so probably almost done. But we got all new camera systems actually throughout the park, through our police department and town hall. Oh, right here, that's a new camera. So it hasn't been done in 15 years. This stuff is really state of the art. So that went well. Still waiting on Marlowe K for the new water 620 customers. As you know, we're doing that lead service inventory where we have to check who has lead pipes, and we're still ongoing with that. The CRA is doing well. As you know, now that we met that $100,000 threshold, we have to have an audit like the auditor just stated. And we're going to start talking about in our next meeting, we have another agenda, the CRA just briefly. Water change out is water meter change out is doing fine. The fishing tournament was great. Got a few pictures in there. We actually repaired, thanks to Bridget, I contacted the county about the enclosed lights on Forest Hill and Pine Tree, and they look great. Thank you, Bridget, for telling me about that.
Thank you to residents for notifying.
We got an update on the Florida Mango Road. Hopefully by the end of the month, I wouldn't, let's keep our fingers crossed. But it's a really, it's a tough job to get that road back open, but they said by the end of the month, it might happen. Last meeting, we talked about this hedge and tree that was in the line of sight. We took care of that. We did have the building official go out to both the Hagen and an issue on Westlake Drive. He couldn't call it a inhabitable or a structural issue because you can't get into the houses on both of those, but they call them nuisances. Actually, Charlie asked me to do that. So we're actually at the governor's hurricane conference right now. I was there today, and we'll be in and out all week. It's actually here in Palm Beach County, and we're starting a review for the hurricane, which is starting next month. Hurricane season starts next month. We had some issues with the generator. Luckily, we were able to get the parts, and we think we're okay. I don't know if you've seen the police department's flooring. Has anyone seen that?
I have.
I have not.
You got to see it. It came out really nice. Thanks to Dana and the chief. It's great job. So they took out all the carpet basically except for one room, and now they have this nice, really nice flooring. Maybe. And we're working on the information meeting, and we already told you we're returning back our business hours, and we're starting to work on the budget. So that's my staff report. Any
Questions for Mr. LaBella? No questions?
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Let's move on to council comments. Ms. Mosbeck, you're up.
And I'd like, in honor of National Police Week, I'd like to recognize all four of you who are here and thank you for just setting a wonderful tone in the town. I think it's a great hearing. And I'd also like to thank Dana for reaching out to the sheriff and getting us that free training. So well done on that.
Started yet. I'm getting there.
Yeah, but you negotiated it.
Yes.
And congrats to the chief and to Mary on your reappointments.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As you get older, it's only a year instead of 3.
So I echo those sentiments, the sentiments of Councilmember Mosbach. I cannot stress how important I feel that it is for members of our community who are running a business in our community to live by the rules and regulations and operate their business. That's probably something that my 73-year-old small business owner father has passed down and instilled in me. So I know this was a difficult evening, but I think very important in some of the precedent that has been set here. I also just want to extend my prayers and condolences to your family, Councilmember Maples, for the passing of your grandmother.
Wow, I think you guys covered it all. I echo the sentiment. Thank you to law enforcement, public safety. I share your love for the public. It was a difficult night with the heartfelt sentiment of the homeowner. However, I think we need to, like Mayor said, be responsible to our community and keeping it enforced and keeping it beautified. And as a business owner, I agree that they need to be responsible because it's not only about them, it's about their neighbors and the rest of the community. Condolences to our vice mayor for his loss of his family member. And thanks again for you keeping us safe in this community.
Thank you. Thank you for that, council, for that, and warm wishes in the town. It was actually Emily's idea to put my grandmother in the minutes today, so thank you for that. Chief and police, thank you for all that you do. I did have a quick question I was going to ask you, Chief, but I forgot. So we took out the stop signs. Did we ever have anyone camp up there in Keller Road to write tickets and slow some folks down there? And did we do anything about that? Because I've walked and spoken to Susan, I've spoken to Tim, I've spoken to a couple people there.
Well, we're going to do a report at the end. I will tell you, the officers are here. We're not getting any violations. We did put a speed move from your area up there to show what was going on. There's really not a lot of room there for speeding. The stop signs were removed because they were illegal, because there's no gate and you can't have people stop in the middle of the road. And it's always been an issue when you try to accommodate people who complain, the city gets in the middle and guess what? We can get sued. So it was illegal. I talked with Joe, we removed it. You still have to slow down quite a bit to get over the hump.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another one, I think about 1,000 feet west of that.
So we had to.
We've been doing around, even on midnights, the guys will put, nobody came through the gate. You know, we're doing details on that on every shift that's getting documented.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I don't know.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Good point, John. Just so you know that when somebody puts you on notice like that, if the public puts me on notice, I take that very seriously. So obviously I wrote down that I'm going to have the traffic engineer go out now to have a review that, because he said safety, he said kids.
Yeah.
So I will have somebody, because I was going to have that, remember I said I was going to have that in October to see if we need to add something for traffic calming, but I'll have him or her go out now and do a little check, an inspection to see if it's safe, because he put me on notice.
I appreciate that.
I don't see it. I don't see a safety concern. I've been out there many times, but now that he's put us on notice, I'm going to have a professional go out there.
I just want to make a little suggestion in some of my experience. Sometimes when you're on foot or when you're not certified into using the laser and the radar, you would think that looking at a vehicle that might be going 30 miles an hour, you might think they're going 50. So just something to give you guys, you're welcome to come to the PD. We can pull out our laser and we'll drive a car down the street and shoot the laser at it and let you see the speed so you can have a visual of how fast it will look like a car is going faster than they are. We learned about that in radar school. So sometimes when people think that you're speeding, you're really not. We don't really have a speeding problem on Keller. Do people speed? Yes.
Yeah.
But do we have a problem? No. And I've been here for 17 years.
Yeah, I'm an expert in that area on testifying. But if you're interested, get with the manager and we'll work something out if you find it.
And have you, Chief, has your team been out there and just showed presence? Whether or not we're writing any tickets, but at least they can see the car, they can see you guys.
We requested a detail and they have.
Okay, so like they know you guys are on the watch, on the job.
As a matter of fact, some people want to know what was going on because
You were so on the watch. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Again, thank you. All your service, all the hard work you guys put in to help make this town safe and make it what it is and protect it. So when people come, and I know I've walked there, I've knocked on their doors, I've spoken to Susan in person, I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can. And that way we can tell the story, hey, this technically the city steps in and we can't have a stop sign here. That's just not legal. So we can communicate that to them personally. Sometimes that gets missed in this format, that information.
I gave her my card. She's going to call me tomorrow too.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Well, what a night, and just wanted to say, as I always do, thanks for everyone staying in. It's late, and so thank you, council, staff, and everyone for all the hard work, and I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Our gratitude and appreciation goes out to Lake Clark Shores Police Department, all of you. Thank you for everything you do. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're moving on. Don't go anywhere.
Put your other hat on.
How long is this going to be?
We're going to move on. We are going to open the Lake Clark Shores Community Redevelopment Agency meeting for May 14th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Take care,
Gregory-
Laura.
Here.
Gregory Freebold, Chair.
Here.
John Maples, Vice Chair.
Here.
Bridget Keating, Commissioner.
Present.
Taylor Materio, Commissioner.
Here.
Christy Moss Bach, Commissioner.
Got it.
I was
Here.
trying last time. I didn't do it right.
We'll work on that one. You got pretty close.
Do we have any audience comments, verbal, written, emailed, any of the above? No, thank you. I'll take a motion to approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of consent agenda.
I'll motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our presentation was already handled by Christine. New business is approval of incentive agreement with Four Brothers to pay for 1 year of water and sewer services. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Have a
I will second.
I
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I think anything we can do to bring restaurants into our food desert is a wonderful thing.
And we did that purposely
Yeah.
way back when we were doing it. And
Oh.
Paul came to me one day and goes, hey, what's going on with it? I
Did-
pointed him in Joe's direction. So they've actually gotten better since they're not on 10th and they come here. So they stepped up their game.
Yeah.
Yes. So Commissioner comments. Commissioner Mossbach? You have any comments?
Oh, I thought we were going to discuss new business.
That was new business. We just
Oh, the-
approved
Was
it.
it?
Lights for community park? So do we discuss lights for community park?
That's the
Where
old.
do I see
that's
that?
the minutes. That's the old meeting.
Yeah.
That's
well,
the
no.
Am
prior
I missing
meeting.
something?
No,
But this
you're
is,
good.
this is the current.
Oh, excuse me. I'm on the wrong page. Forgive me.
Yeah.
So the only new business item we had was the Four Brothers.
So if they try to charge you for water at Four Brothers, tell
Right.
them I won't pay for water.
Right. No, nothing to add at this time.
Okay.
Same.
Commissioner Materia?
No
yeah.
comments.
In my golf cart rides with town manager, we've been looking at the parks and how we could help with the beautification of it. And one of his suggestions was for us to hire a landscape architect, especially right now, we're getting ready to do the Pine Tree Bridge. He said this would be a good time to look at and get suggestions from a landscape architect on the parks. Specifically, I was looking at the Pine Tree Park and the Memorial Park, but I'm open to all the parks if that's something that the council would like to see done. So, we all have ideas, but having a landscape architect come in and give us recommendations on what might best suit those areas. I think it's a lot of room for improvement. We have a lot of new residents, all great age groups, from young families to, as we are, and I am becoming a senior, to there's fitness, people walk their dogs, there's a lot of functions that the parks could serve. So rather than us trying to figure out what that is, to have a landscape architect come in, not only for the function of it, but the beautification, the trees, some of the trees are overgrown. Some are native, some are not native. So I think this community is very environmentally friendly, not only for the bird sanctuary, the lake itself, but to look at the parks and see what we can do to make it a more beautiful place. And I think we have the money in the CRA funds would be the best place to look at that option. So I don't know if that needs to be a motion or just have what sentiment to the council is.
Is that like a discussion for a new,
Well,
a new item at a future
I
meeting?
definitely agree with Bridget said. I believe in master planning, so you're really looking at a master plan for the two parks. There's a lot of construction going to happen there, so there is a good time to do it. So I don't think we have anything in a contractor or a consultant, so we probably have to go out to bid to pick a landscape architect. I'd have to check with staff if we have somebody on staff already in contract. But it's not a bad process. We actually go out to bid, because then you listen to, I make it a piece of the presentation to what's their preliminary vision of those two parks, and then you select that consultant and they make a master plan. So I think it is appropriate at this time to do that for those two sites.
And will that be only just only for the vegetation and, or is that just like the function of the park and?
It's a master plan.
of it?
It's
All
everything.
Okay.
It's all
Comprehensive.
it's all encompassing.
That'd be great.
So your irrigation down to electrical, everything. Obviously landscaping is a big component, but is it a passive park, or is it not a passive park? Is it more for kids? All that should be discussed.
Good. Comments?
So just a consensus. So you want me to do some research on that?
You just need head shakes,
Yeah.
right?
I love my handshake. Handshakes. I get, so she puts on the minutes that we got consensus.
Okay. And then I just wanted to add, I know we were going to do the lights in the fall for the pickleball or for the park.
Yes.
Is that still something that's part of the vision?
Yes. In July, we're going to start doing the planning, going out to bid in July.
Yeah, just to
Great.
make that park safer, for sure. That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Miss- I did have one comment, actually. Speaking of master plan, would it be wise for us to have an overall master plan for the CRA in terms of at least have a menu of a wish list of ways that we, now that we're accumulating it.
You didn't hear my
some-
chicken or the egg discussion. I had that last year.
Now that we're accumulating some assets.
To make it real short, the chicken or the egg is, some people believe in master planning that, but then when you're not taking the stakeholders or the economy or the actual people that make the decision makers, sometimes it's better to hear what they want to do. So that's the chicken or the egg discussion. So what I'm doing right now is I'm getting a master list of all the property owners and the stakeholders, and I'm starting to talk to them. Remember we talked about maybe hiring actually a consultant to do this, but just if anyone's listening out there, don't think small. Way to do it today is actually combine some of the properties. We have small pieces everywhere and some ripe for redevelopment, and think of buying your neighbor, combining it and doing a better mixed use project. So that's what I'm starting to discuss with the property owners.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow, will you send me a copy of this?